Everybody could please stand and join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Great. All right, we're going to just do one order of business before we proceed to our very special guest tonight. We're going to approve the minutes that everybody should have gotten in their mailboxes for September 20th, 2018. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think the motion carries. The minutes have been approved. Terrific. Thank you. Now we're going to turn right away to a special presentation from Dr. Brendan Lyons, who is superintendent of the Arlington Central School District. We're thrilled to have you, and I might add that I don't believe you've ever been here before.
I have not.
And which is makes it even more special because a lot of our residents will be watching on TV and on YouTube later, and they're going to be happy to hear what you have to say. We have a few questions we'll ask you at the end, if that's okay. And thank you very much for coming.
We really
Take it away.
appreciate it, and kudos to you, Gal. You're the first town that has reached out, at least in my 6 years, to say, hey, come and tell us a little bit more about Arlington. So we really appreciate your hospitality and Supervisor Knotts for inviting us. And thank you to Andrea for the technology assistance helping us get set up. So I'll get right to it. Our presentation here this evening, I just entitled All About Arlington. It's a little bit of everything about the district, and we will culminate with, we'll drill down a little more into the finances and the tax-related questions toward the end of the presentation.
Great.
And you do have two guests, also fellow guests with me here this evening. Mr. Kevin Sheldon is our Assistant Superintendent for Business. He'll get up when we start talking about taxes and such and get into a little more detail. And then Dr. Jonathan Brown is our Deputy Superintendent. So diving right in. I always start all my presentations with pictures of these guys because this is what it's all about. We've got Executive Molinaro up on the left there presenting to our kids, signing a bill, which was really exciting a couple years ago. Marching band, and you can see for yourself kind of the array of kids and activities and things that go on throughout our school district. But this is our mission. This is what it's all about. Speaking of our mission, we do have an official mission statement. It's to empower all students to be self-directed, lifelong learners who will treat their community and live passionate, purposeful lives. And we do have a list of core values, which certainly can reach you. All people have inherent value. Lifelong learning is essential for growth. A community thrives when all members embrace their interdependence with compassion and empathy. Potential can only be attained through commitment, resilience, and high expectations. All people can learn. Change is essential for progress, and all people are responsible for their choices and actions. Probably very similar to your core values as a town. So I want to start out with just the multiple opportunities for students. I do apologize for the typo, that second bullet. Tab down on me, that actually should be up on the first line where it says level. So we have a wide array of academic, extracurricular, and athletic opportunities for our students. Many clubs, intramurals, grade level field trips at the elementary level, clubs, intramurals, and athletics as we get into the middle school years. And then at the high school, clubs, intramurals, interscholastic athletics, so we start to get into that competitive stage at the high school level. We've been very successful athletically, numerous league, sectional, and state championships over the years, as well as recognition, equally important, for sportsmanship and scholarship. I'm sure you're aware that we have an award-winning music education program. Band and string instrumental instruction begins in 4th grade. We have a 3-time New York State champion marching band and color guard. And we have been noted since 2012 as one of the best communities for music education in the country. We have over 213 course offerings at Arlington High School. That includes core level courses, your typical math, science, English, social studies, but also we have numerous elective courses. We're also very proud of the fact that we have 21 advanced placement courses as well as 12 what are called concurrent Dutchess Community College courses. So students are able to earn college credit while they attend Arlington. We have students who literally come out as graduates and are almost through their first semester, if not first year of Dutchess, because of all the credits between APs and credits that they've earned. And this is just a small sampling of our elective courses. really diverse in every department, and it really gives our students the opportunity to explore and to try things and to decide what they might be interested in furthering, whether it's their college or career or the military. 94% of our students do attend a 2 or 4-year college. One of our parts of our mission is that Arlington students will willingly contribute to their community. No matter what school you go to, we do have 11 schools. Our students and our staff are constantly giving back. This is just a sampling of the activities that go on in our school blood drives. We have a senior tea at Vale Farm. We partner with the town of Poughkeepsie on a senior citizen prom, Veterans Day ceremonies, food baskets, clothing drives, etc. Seniors helping seniors. We visit senior centers. We have the Interact Special Needs Prom, which is a great night where we invite special needs students and also young adults to come to the high school and actually experience an actual prom in our facilities. And our students facilitate all that, and a few other examples are listed here as well. So Arlington by the numbers, just to give you a sense of who we are and kind of logistically, we have approximately 8,000 students in grades K through 12. We have 11 schools and 1 central administrative office building. The administrative office building is up on Todd Hill, and it was formerly LaGrange Elementary. And this is just a listing of our schools and their grade levels. We have almost 1.5 million square feet of building space and approximately 395 acres of land over our 11 buildings and central office. We have closed 2 schools, which you're probably aware of, LaGrange Elementary, which is now our central office in 2010, and Arlington Middle School in 2013. Little bit of just clarification there. Although we closed the middle school, the building that was actually closed is the Raymond Avenue building, which was formerly Arthur S. May. That school was moved over into what it used to be the Arlington Middle School. So the actual closure was a middle school, but the building was an elementary building, and we're in the process of selling that property on Raymond Avenue. Arlington spans approximately 114 square miles and includes parts of 9 townships, Unionvale being one of them. Our bus fleet travels over 2.6 million miles per year. We are a very large geographic district, and we have over 1,500 employees, inclusive of all departments. This is where we are. I wanted to just show you, I know one of the questions that Supervisor Moss had asked us to speak about is Unionvale encompasses many different, many different school districts, while Arlington encompasses many different parts of many different towns. So I just wanted to show you the school districts surrounding us. You'll see that in the presentation it's red, but it's hard to see on the screen. You'll see Hyde Park, Millbrook, Dover, Pauling, Wappinger, Spackenkill, Poughkeepsie all border us, with Arlington being there in the middle. I want to show you a little bit about what's been happening with our enrollment. So you may have heard that enrollment is declining, and that is a trend that we're seeing in virtually all across New York State, with a few exceptions. There's many reasons for it. One very basic biological reason is people are having less children. Family sizes are decreasing. We also have folks leaving the state for, again, a variety of reasons: jobs, cost of living, taxes, etc. So we have people leaving New York State. This is a trend, and I'll show you on the next slide, that all of the districts in Dutchess County are seeing, and really most of the districts in New York State are seeing this trend. What you see here is a multi-year history by grade of our enrollment. Just so you understand the rows and columns, the yellow are actual numbers. So these are actual students that were accounted for and actually were present in our schools for those given years, including this current year. That was as of approximately October 1st. You'll see the total where it says actual, which is the second to last row. And then we did a demographic study to kind of project out, which is down on the last column, and it just shows you what the study said versus what our actuals are in comparison, just so you can see that. So the arrow points to this year. So that is, as we started the year, this is the number of students in seats across grades K through 12. And you can see one thing that probably jumps out at you if you look at the difference between the kindergarten class, which is the first row, and the senior class. And you see that difference, right? So 525 kids coming in, 707 kids hopefully graduated in June. That's almost a 200 student difference. And you can see that those differences have been expanding really back since 2008. You see that 535 kindergarten class, and we graduated 815 kids that year. So we've been seeing this shift over multiple years. It's why we've closed 2 schools. You know, we have just fewer students than we did, give or take, 10 years ago. This is, I know it's a little fuzzy, but these are our surrounding districts and the same trend. It just shows their totals. Sometimes these numbers are a little skewed because you know, there's a lag in the data. So if the number isn't exactly what it shows, you know, there's a reason for that. But just generally, this shows the trend across the 13 districts in Dutchess County. You can see that they are all declining to different degrees. Our probably closest comparison would be Wappingers in size over there on the far right. But you see it's a trend across Dutchess County and again through most of New York State. I also want to just bring your attention not only to the enrollment trend, which we know now is going down, but one thing that is not going down proportionally is the economic status of our students. So what we are seeing is an increasing number of students who are what we would call being poverty. And that is the blue line that you see increasing over that time. So even though the number of students is declining, the number of students in need are increasing. The reason I bring that up is because typically students in poverty have a higher level of need. So, and that can be school readiness, so they're coming to us perhaps without a pre-K experience, so they're coming to school less ready than their peers. It could be support at home in terms of resources, in terms of parents. So that poverty line has a major impact on our district as a whole. So our demographic is changing as a community, as a school district. So in terms of kind of shifting into the economics, which were some of the other questions that were asked, there's many variables that go into a school budget. So each year the budget is supported by a combination of the tax levy, which Kevin will get into a little more detail, state and federal aid, and sometimes and often fund balance. Each year, the cost of doing business increases due to a variety of factors. And these are just the major ones, many of which I'm sure you're familiar with as account. It has to operate year over year. Contractual salary and benefits, health insurance, TRS and ERS, which are the employer pension contributions, depending on whether they're certificated or non-certificated employees, utilities and fuel, goods and services, and potentially increased number of students with special needs. So what have we done to control costs and the tax levy? We've tried to really thoughtfully right-size our staff and our buildings. I've already mentioned the closure of 2 schools in response to declining enrollment while maintaining a high-quality educational program. I think we've been successful in that students who went to our schools 10 years ago, if anything, I would say our experiences have improved, but they certainly have not declined. Our programs are what they were, give or take, 10 years ago. But we've been able to make some reductions in staffing, close 2 buildings while maintaining that Arlington education. We have maintained the tax levy at or below the tax cap for the last 7 years, including a negative levy, which as far as we can tell is the first time ever in Arlington history in 16 and 17. And I'll show you a chart that just illustrates that in a few moments. We've completed capital projects using tax-neutral avenues, such as establishing a capital reserve, maximizing state aid, and energy performance contracts. And we've also attempted to slow the rate of salary growth and increased our employees' contribution to health benefits. So this is just a tax levy history going back, again, 7 years. And it shows you on the first column where it says tax cap. That was the New York State designated tax cap. So what that means is that if we wanted to levy more than that, we would have had to get the budget passed with a supermajority. You can see to the next column over the actual levy. So that is actually what the board approved and what we levied with the community. And you can see that, for example, in 12-13, our cap was 3.87, we levied 2.0, et cetera, and it goes down those columns. And you can see in 16-17 was our negative levy, and then right up through this current year, we've been consistently staying below our levy, our cap, excuse me. What that demonstrates, I think, is that there's an awareness that we know that in our community there's tax fatigue. I mentioned before that folks are leaving New York. They're finding it harder and harder to afford to live here. And we're trying as best we can to mitigate that. You can see on the right, it gives you the cumulative taxpayer savings. So if we had levied up to the limit, up to the cap, that is the amount in addition that would have been levied. And as you accumulate that over 7 years, it's about a $9 million difference in terms of what we levied, actual, versus what we could have with a simple majority on the vote. Just a side note, just because Supervisor Moss and I were talking about this earlier, the New York State rebate is contingent upon not only the school district staying under the cap, but the town staying under the cap. And if both of those things happen, then the residents get the rebate. Unfortunately, last year, I believe, or maybe the year before, one of the surrounding towns did not stay under the cap. So even though the district did, because the town did not, folks did not receive their rebate. And they were confused about, well, why didn't we get a rebate? And because you have to have that joint under the cap venture with the town and the school district in order to be eligible for the rebate, as per the legislation. It was not even available. So at this point, Kevin's going to come on up and talk a little bit about taxes. One of the questions was, why do they vary from school district to school district? So he's going to get into a little more detail on that. And I'll come up and conclude at the end.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So this is a difficult topic every year. It's a very complicated topic. So what I tried to do is give some basic overview of how the tax structure works. So, each school district in New York State is unique. So their financial condition, the student needs, state aid ratios, tax base, homes or businesses. Therefore, individuals will not have the same tax bills, despite the fact that the method used to calculate the tax bill is the same. So, what does that mean? Just there. So, there's two major factors that go into basically calculating a tax bill. You have the tax levy, which is under the control of the Board of Education and the community. Each May, on the third Tuesday in May, the community comes out and votes on the budget that the Board of Education has worked on for months and puts before the voters. And if they approve it, then that sends basically it defines the amount of taxes that you would want to be charging. So the Board of Education and the community has input into the size of the tax levy. So that's our part of what happens with the taxes. Everything else that has to do with the tax bills and the calculations is written into the real property tax law and is not under the control of the school district. So I know many people feel like the school district, because we are the tax levying body and because we actually collect our own taxes, feel like we have a great deal of control over what happens. The only thing that we get to control in the entire process is the setting of the tax levy, and we do that through a vote to the community. So the community votes on that, that establishes the tax levy, and we move forward from there. So the second piece is the assessed values of the properties to support that school budget or any municipality. So it's the value of the property as defined by the local assessor, including any improvements such as homes, buildings, or businesses. So in our school district, Dr. Lyons was explaining that we have 9 different townships, but that actually translates into 18 different tax rates. 9 of those tax rates are homestead, and the other 9 are non-homestead. The homestead are the taxes that are paid by each of the homeowners. The nine businesses with the non-homestead pay the other
portion. And in our district, it works out to about 77% of our overall tax bill. The overall tax levy is paid by the homeowners, and 23% is paid by the businesses.
But how do you count, what's vacant land considered?
If it has an assessed value, then it would also be part of the...
Is that a non-homestead because it's vacant?
The assessor determines whether or not it's homestead or non-homestead, and it depends on how it's classified. So if you had a piece of property and it was classified as part of the home, it would be under the homestead. And if it was classified as being commercial, then it would be a business.
So only commercial is non-homestead?
Correct. Only commercial is non-homestead.
Great, thank you.
So what I did is I tried to make an example. So I made a simple budget. Our budget is much larger than that. Our budget is $210 million this year. But for just trying to get the basics of how things are done, I put together this analysis, or this talking point. When you get actually into the actual taxes, there are a whole host of things that get added on top of this. But the basic structure is we have a budget of $18 million. That budget gets supported by the revenue. So we have to tell the public how we expect to pay for that budget. And in this case, we're going to take $15 million from taxes. That would be the tax levy. We're going to get $2 million from the state, so that goes in. And then we're going to use $1 million from our fund balance, our savings account. So that's giving back what is in our coffers back to the public so that it helps support them, it helps support the budget, and it's a way of giving back to the taxpayer. This is really busy, but let's see if we can go through this. So, on the left, on the top, so you see a bunch of blue boxes. I put together 10 houses, all assessed at $100,000. So if you went to the very first column, all 10 houses are $100,000. And then you see the all other homes at the bottom of that. It's $1,125,000,000. So that's the value of all the other houses that exist in this budget. If you take and add all of that up, you end up with $1,126,000,000. That's the assessed values. So that's one of the components. And then you take $15 million. That's what we need. That's what we said that we're going to collect in taxes. That's our tax levy. So you take the $15 million and you divide it by the $1 billion, and you come up with a ratio. And then you multiply that ratio by 1,000. And that gives you something called the rate per thousand. And it's $13, read it from here, 32 cents. So if you are one of those 10 homes, your tax bill for this budget is $1,332.15. That's the basics of how to calculate what's going on in creating a tax bill. So what happens if you're house number 1 in the next year and your assessment is actually $150,000? So to keep everything else the same, $50,000 came off of the all other homes. And if you see now, if you go down to the green bar, that first house now has a tax bill of $1,998. The other 9 homes are still $1,332. And the difference between $1,332 and $1,998 comes off of all of the other houses in the all other category. So if your house is assessed more than these other houses, you will pay more in taxes. That's the lift. So if the higher your assessed value is, the potential for higher tax bill. Okay, so the next column, the one dead center. If we were able to add $100 million in assessments, in other words, new businesses came in, new houses were built, new values were created, you would lower all of your bills because there are more dollars, there's more percent for the assessed values to pay for those. So it drops the rate per thousand to $12.23. Those same $100,000 houses now only pay $1,223. All other pay the difference, and you still collect your $15 million. If in the next column you took $100 million in assessed value off, in other words, the assessed values in the community went down, then your prices are going to go up. The tax bill will go up. because we still need to collect the same $15 million. The common denominator at the bottom is, when we get to the end, we're going to collect $15 million. And the assessed value is really the proportion that each individual entity will pay, whether it be a business or whether it be a home. If you go to the last column, anyway, so the last column is if we,
Oh, yeah, of course. 120?
so if we, in the last column, all of the assessed values go up in equal proportion to each other. The tax bill stays the same, does not change from the very first column. Everyone's tax bill is still going to be $1,332.50. So the interesting thing is, sometimes assessors will go through they call it a reassessment, or they're going to reassess everybody, and everybody's like, my taxes are going to go up because of the reassessment. It's not necessarily true, because if everybody else's prices go up in the same proportion, then everything stays the same, and we collect the same amount of money. But if your assessment goes up higher or faster than your neighbors, your tax bill will go up more than your neighbors, and the reverse. So if your tax bill, if your assessment does not go up as fast as your neighbors, or it decreases, your tax bill will go down. So that's the relationship. So we, the school district, puts together a budget, establishes the tax levy to support that budget, and then the public votes on that budget and says, yes, we'd like to spend that amount of money or not. Then the board establishes the tax levy, and then we go out and collect taxes. And we plug it into this formula that's set by the real property tax law, and we use the assessments that are defined by the local assessors. The local assessors have the job of making sure that the properties that they're valuing stay in that relationship. It's extremely complicated in the Arlington district because we have 9 different townships and 18 different tax rates.
Yeah.
That's
Just before we open it up, if there's questions, just some other resources for folks. And I'll email this presentation to you.
Great.
So if you want to put it on your website or however you'd like to post it, that's fine.
Thank you.
So I listed some other resources. First of all, just our main number at central office. On the first page were the 3 of us, our email addresses. You can email any of us with follow-up questions at any time. The district webpage has a tremendous amount of information on it. So that's the address. It's www.arlingtonschools.org. I wanted to also bring your attention to the continuing ed program. We have a really outstanding continuing ed, adult ed program in Arlington that people take advantage of, but even more, I wish they would. I put the link up here for you, but really a really eclectic, diverse listing of classes for folks to come out and take for very reasonable cost. And they're hosted, typically they're hosted in our school buildings. Once in a while they're on an outside site. But it's really a great community opportunity. And then lastly, our district Facebook page, if you are on Facebook, we post information there. So all of that is there for you. And then if we want to open it up to questions.
Yeah. So we sent out an email notification that you were speaking and asked people if they wanted to send in questions. I only got a few, which is, and Andrea said nobody called town hall today. So, and then I'll tell you a couple of things people say when they come visit us from, our residents come to town hall.
Sure.
Now, before I ask you these, some of these are difficult questions, I think, but I've never run across personally, my son didn't grow up here, we grew up somewhere else, or he grew up somewhere else, but I haven't run across anybody that didn't love the school district. So with that is a premise that everybody seems to be very happy there. The question keeps coming up about the taxes.
Sure.
So one gentleman wrote, and he wants to know, are you building 2 garages in LaGrange? And why 2? And how much does it cost, and why are you spending that money now? You know, it all
Yep.
hovers on. So do you mind answering that?
Yeah, so in every statement, there's a kernel of truth. So that's partially accurate.
Yeah.
So I want to say 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, we put together what's called a capital reserve. I mentioned it in one of the slides. And the capital reserve is essentially a repository for when we have money left over to put in to use later on. And it can only be used for capital projects, so construction, renovation, et cetera. So we did that. We put some money in the capital reserve, and we put it out to the voters about 2 years, I think 2 budget cycles ago. Not necessarily to build 2 garages on the range, but to make improvements and additions on the 2 garages that we do own. One is in LaGrange at the central offices up on Top Hill Road, and one is actually in Arlington over at what is now Arthur S. May School over in the town of Poughkeepsie. So it's a combination, it's renovations, it's additions, that's those types of things. So it's not 2 new garages, and there are not 2 that are going to be in LaGrange, and they are on existing school property. That project, when I mentioned tax neutral, so we took the capital reserve money that we had. When you combine that with the state aid that we get back on our building aid, it winds up being tax neutral in the sense that even when the debt comes on board, it's not additional debt, because we will use the combination of the capital reserve and the state aid essentially to pay down the debt. So that is partially true. We are building, renovating 2 existing garages, but not completely accurate.
Right, okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's a fair
And
question.
by the way, if I can't answer what I can do, any of these questions, we'll certainly
Sure.
follow up.
No, we appreciate you having a dialogue with us,
Sure.
frankly, because,
Absolutely.
you know, people come in and they ask us questions, and we're
Yeah.
not prepared to answer questions for you, so.
Right. Oh, and sorry, and you, the other was why.
Why, yeah.
Right, so, you know, it may be obvious, but maybe not. Our garages were built in the 50s. They were designed for 1950s buses under 1950s OSHA rules and codes
Yeah.
and laws. They're antiquated, and it makes us extremely inefficient. In some cases, they're not the safest they could be in terms of work environments. They're really run down, and they've been through the ringer. And so it's about creating more efficiency, taking care of our buses, making sure our buses are out on the road where they should be and not laid up in the garage. So that it's essentially a long time coming. It's not the most exciting project because it's hard to connect school bus garages with kids. But the bottom line is we want our kids to be safe. We want them to be on school buses. We want our buses to be on time. And we also want our employees to be working in a good environment and to be working efficiently. So although it's not the most attractive project to do for a school district, it's been a long time coming.
Got to do it, yep. We're talking about some of that maintenance here
Yeah.
as well. What percentage of Unionville age-appropriate students attend Arlington schools? Do you know how many Unionville kids are in the schools, the middle school, the elementary, and the high school?
So what percentage of Unionville residents, what percentage of our kids are actual Unionville residents?
Yeah, do you have any
I
idea?
have it off the top of my head. I'd have to do some sorting because in our database, we don't sort by town. You know, so Unionville, as you know, is a couple different towns. And
Yeah.
so it's going to have their street address and whatever their mailing address is. I was actually surprised that this was LaGrangeville when you
Right.
mentioned into the GPS. So we'd have to do some really interesting sorts to figure out which kids actually live in the town of Unionville.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't have that readily.
Yeah, we don't either, because we don't have a post office
It's
box,
almost
so
an
we...
impossible question.
Yeah, with LaGrangeville, it's
Yeah,
tough.
it
Yeah.
does.
Where the post offices are.
Yeah.
Can I
So-
go back to the transportation for just a second? One of the residents asked me, why do we buy so many buses? And if these new garages, will we be able to extend the life of these buses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been on a bus replacement cycle every year, where we essentially cycle out, give or take, 10 to 12 buses each year. So as the buses start to get up in mileage, frankly, more so than the engines, but the bodies start to really start to rust out. They start to really deteriorate, and they become increasingly expensive to repair and keep on the road. We're inspected regularly by the DOT, and even more so, correctly so, by the way, even more so than like your typical car inspection. These are very stringent. And so many things can force us to take buses off the road. One of the things and one of the reasons for this project that we're doing is providing paved surfaces to park our buses. Right now our buses are parked, for the most part, are parked on dirt, packed dirt. And you can imagine, right, it would be like if you parked your car in the front yard or in a dirt parking lot, the moisture gets up under the vehicle, it's trapped there, and then it rots out the undersides of the buses much more quickly than it would if it was in a garage or if it was parked on pavement. So that's one of the pieces of the project, is making sure that the surfaces are paved where we're parking the buses. Essentially, when buses, just like our own vehicles at home, when they start to get up to that certain mileage, they start breaking down more often, they start needing more expensive repairs, and it becomes sort of a cost benefit of, okay, so we can keep repairing these, we can keep taking them off the road, or we can replace, trade those old buses in and, have those buses last a little longer. The other piece to this is we've been starting to transition over to propane buses. So we have 33 propane buses in our fleet now, which we're finding to be much more efficient in terms of fuel costs. Repairs are easier, and we've had a lot of success with transitioning away from the diesel on the large buses to propane. They're also much quieter and much cleaner. We've all been there, right? We're at the bus stop and the bus pulls away and the big black plume comes up, as the bus pulls away. That's not good. That's not good for anybody, right? It's not good for the kids, it's not good for the driver, it's not good for the neighborhood, it's not good for anybody. With propane, that exhaust is much cleaner and much different. And so we've been transitioning over to propane buses as well. I hope that answers your question.
It helps. Great. Now, there's two questions that kind of are at the crux of the issue, it seems to me. Some people were asking about why your demographics are changing, and they're talking about you're getting state, this may be wrong, I'm just repeating anecdotally because, I've never been to your school district, or to your school, but the rumor is that you're importing kids from Poughkeepsie. The state is paying you to do so. So and this is probably something you've heard from parents, so the demo that you were talking about is changing, but it's changing because you're importing it on purpose to get state aid. And people are wondering if that's an appropriate way to go. Is that true or false? Or
remember before I said there's a kernel of truth. There's not even a kernel on that one.
Okay.
No. So there's nothing that allows for that, right? So there is no recruiting. Public schools are public schools. They're based on school district boundaries. So if kids live in Arlington, they go to Arlington, with a few exceptions. We do have students that go to other school districts that have special needs, but that's contracted, right? There's an agreement, it's board approved, et cetera. But in terms of like where kids live, if they live in Poughkeepsie, they go to Poughkeepsey. If they live in Arlington, they go to Arlington. So there's no
That's a good question.
There's no trying to inflate state aid like that. Yeah, there's not even. Really.
Have you heard that rumor? I just thought that was an interesting question.
I've never heard the recruiting. I mean, I've heard folks say that, the Poughkeepsie kids are all coming to Arlington and getting a free education. I've heard that, but not the actual like we're actually bringing them across and recruiting them. What I would say is I have no doubt that we have students in our school district that don't live in our school district, but it's not just Poughkeepsie. Remember, it's Dover. There's kids. We do our best to try to track those situations down and have families that live here have their kids go here. But I'd be lying to you if I said no. Every single kid that goes to Arlington, I absolutely 100% guarantee that they're Arlington residents because, frankly, people play games.
Sure.
And they manipulate addresses. They live with relatives, things like that. And
parents split up and
frankly, by law, if parents do split up, the parents can choose. So if dad lives in Millbrook and mom lives in Arlington, it's their pick. They can have their child attend whichever they choose. So, so no truth to the first part, but I've heard other sort of conspiracy theories about those types of things.
That's good. It's good to hear the answer, from you. Thank you. Okay, so here's the part that's hard for us, and I just, and it leads to these next two the questions that I'll just combine for you. There is a low-income senior exemption that people get, and with the assessor's office here in Town Hall, people come and go, and we've had a couple of instances where older folks were almost in tears because they were $78 or $200 over that $38,000 income limit, and it meant that their school taxes were going to kick in and they'd be paying $4,000. I mean, they were like walking out of here in tears, and it breaks our hearts. So I guess the question I'm asking you is the homestead versus non-homestead. You seem to be the only school district that does that. And I'm not sure it's just commercial, because it seems to me that a lot of people with just vacant plots of land are paying non-homestead rates. So we can check on that. You're probably right, but we should check. So it's the homestead versus non-homestead, and then when people who are aware look at the tax per thousand, not how it's assessed, which I understand is very complicated, but when you look at the tax per thousand, our town of Unionville runs at $3.09 per thousand. The school district in Millbrook runs at $15.15 per thousand.
Okay.
And then when you get to the school district of Arlington, and I'm not giving you a hard time, these are just the numbers, I think it's $39 per thousand last year. But you have the homestead versus the non-homestead. One's 37 and one's something like that. There's a big difference, and it's confusing because there's two. And people have a hard time selling their houses in that district, and they love the school. So that's the bright side. What people are concerned about is that you're very top-heavy, that you're going to have a declining enrollment, and you guys are not reducing your administrative costs, and it really is cutting to the heart of our seniors' ability to live here, the fixed income folks.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, I mean, is there any chance that that could be brought down by lowering some administrative costs? Like if kids are not coming in, do you still have the same number of folks running? I guess the question was, are you too heavy at the top? How many assistants do you have? And you don't have to give us those numbers because it won't mean anything to us, but that's really what people are worried about, is you're just you just stand out so much more than the others as far as costs, that our southern district folks are really having a hard time. So what do you think?
This is one of the biggest questions that I've gotten from a lot of people. Like, somebody told me you have, I guess it's 5 principals in Arlington High School and 4 assistants.
Yes,
That
that's part
seems
of
to be a lot of people, on the high end of the administrative spectrum. I mean, we can't hire that many people in the town because we're under our budget restraints,
Right.
and you're putting all these people in at the high end, and the senior citizen that's working on a Social Security or a small retirement, they can't afford to pay the taxes and they got to move out.
Sure. So let me talk about the first part of the question first. In terms of our awareness that folks are struggling with taxes, absolutely. As I mentioned before, I think the Board of Education and the administration are highly cognizant of that, and that's why when we've got the ability to potentially raise more money in taxes, we've chosen consistently to stay below that and ask for what we need, not for what we can. So that's the first thing. My mom lives in Pleasant Valley. She's a senior citizen, and she's on her own. My dad's not there. So, on a personal note, I get it. I see her tax bill, and we joke, just pretend like you're writing me a check, whatever. But because it goes to the school. But yeah, so we're highly cognizant of it. The other balance to that conversation, that I would say respectfully to folks who bring that up, is the value of your home. I think most people would argue is directly correlated to the quality of the schools. So you can go, frankly, one district over. We don't even have to name a district, and it's more desirable to live in Arlington because of the schools. So that draws people to buy homes in Arlington or Spackenkill or whatever other district you want to talk about because of the quality of that education. So yes, the taxes are higher, and we hear Westchester, Long Island. I mean, it's an issue all over. But the value of your home is likely higher because of the quality of schools. And I think sometimes people forget that maybe they bought their home at X value 25, 30 years ago. What is it worth now, and why? It hasn't devalued. If anything, it's gone up in value. And one of the reasons for that is the school district. That it's a desirable place to raise your kid.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on that a little bit, because I've heard a lot of people saying that they've had people come out and look at their houses and find out that it's Arlington School District, they say we can't afford the taxes, and they go out right up the road to Millbrook or over to Dover, point blank, they can't afford the taxes.
But I believe what
And
you're
that's
saying.
not increasing the value of my home. I'm not looking to sell it, but that's not increasing the value of my home. It's decreasing the value because I'm going to have to sell it lower for somebody that's willing to pay the taxes.
I'll have to take your word for it. The second part was about the administration. So when you look at proportionally Arlington, and we get these reports every year from the county, from the region, in terms of proportion of all the various categories of spending for a school district. So anywhere from administration to transportation to food service, whatever the category is, of all the things we spend money on. When you look at it in proportion to the size of the district, the administrative budget is typically on the low end.
Is it?
So essentially, it's economy of scale, right? So the larger you are, the more efficient you can be. Whether it's busing, administration, whatever, teaching, whatever you're talking about, the larger you are, the more efficient you can be. So that's just to put it in perspective. The other thing that has happened over the years, and unless you've lived it and been in the school district, it's hard to wrap your mind around. But the business of education has become increasingly complex in terms of state mandates, in terms of laws, regulation, policies that have to be followed, reports that have to be done. And so what a building principal did, just as an example, 20 years ago, is nowhere near what a building principal does now. The expectations are completely different. And so that the job has changed. So that's number one. Specifically in terms of the high school. So at the high school, we actually have 9 total administrators. So we have an executive principal who is the principal of the building, and then we have our grade levels broken out into houses. And in each of those houses, you have a house principal, so by grade level. So you have a 9th grade house principal, a 9th grade assistant principal, et cetera, across the 4 grades. What we found is that with the number of kids that we have, and remember, our high school numbers are just now starting to come down because those small classes have not reached the high school yet.
Right.
So what we would anticipate over time is as those small classes, those 500, 600 classes start to work their way up to the high school, that we would have to look at potentially a reduction in administration. But the way it's structured now, with 3,000 students, is that you do have 2 administrators at each grade level, and then you have an executive principal who oversees the building. Much like education in general has become more complex, kids have become more complex. It's a different world.
Yeah.
Education is a different world now, and the expectations are higher. Just one example in terms of the work, how it's changed. The state passed legislation that all teachers have to be evaluated, observed and evaluated in a certain way every year. So we have 700 teachers in our school district.
Cool.
So every one of those teachers, at minimum, has to be observed and evaluated once a year. Some have to have multiple if they're not tenured. That's completely different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, where maybe it was every 3 years. And there was other options for evaluating teachers as opposed to a formal observation. So that's just one piece. It's extremely time consuming. It's very bureaucratic in terms of the process that has to be followed. It's all governed by state laws. So that's one piece that's become very complex over the last several years. That's just one example. So I would argue that we're not top heavy. I know people would disagree. I think in proportion to other school districts, so when you look at just ratios of students and staff and all that, it doesn't indicate that we're top heavy, but I understand that perception. You know, I think anybody would hear, oh my God, there's 9 administrators at the high school. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's a reasonable perception.
Well, one thing I would just suggest is that if we have a lot of employees here, and even summertime employees that have kids that go there.
Sure.
If I didn't know those employees and interact with them, I wouldn't know how great your school system is. Like, those employees tell us, oh, God, it's a great place, my kid loves, and I hear it firsthand from them. But if you're not interacting with people that have, like, a lot of us don't have kids that are in school anymore. Corinna does. But, so we don't hear, most of us wouldn't hear that feedback unless we're talking to our employees who have kids there. And if there's a way to get more of your word out or do more meetings like this, I think it would be, terrific for people to know one-on-one, parents that go there. And also, if you have any way in the future that you could help lobby to raise that low-income dollar amount from $38,000 a year up, or if we could work with you on any kind of lobbying effort to help the fixed-income seniors to get a reduction in their taxes, it would go a long way to helping people stay here and stay in their homes, and we'd love to work with you on that. I don't know your business well enough to make a recommendation, but we're willing partners if you have a good idea.
Yeah, I agree, and our board is very interested in involving themselves in advocacy efforts.
That'd be great.
Regarding legislation. So I think just having that on the radar in terms of, hey, this is something, like you said, that we'd like to partner on. We do fairly regularly meet with our local legislators and, have them come visit the schools and talk to them about, usually, frankly, it's usually about very specific needs for the school. So it could be about school safety, it could be those types of things. But I think that would be a great crossover where it would mutually benefit the community and it would also benefit the schools as well. And I think just generally speaking, the trend that we see is that you've already noted it, right? So when parents have kids in school, they're generally happy, they're generally pleased and satisfied with what's going on. But then as their kids get older and their incomes become more fixed, it's harder to say, well, my kids go to school, so I'm okay with it. And so that's a common thing, as our folks get older in the community. It's harder and harder for them to make ends meet, and it's also harder and harder for them to make that connection between what am I getting,
right?
What am I personally getting for this? Whereas when you're a parent, you see it every day as your kid gets on the school bus or when they come home or when they go to the soccer game or whatever. So I certainly understand that.
Well, we really appreciate you being willing to come because these aren't the easiest of questions, but you're right, the school district also does make us look good. And, we do appreciate that side of the equation that you mentioned, so we really do.
I think what Kevin and I will do is get back to you on your question about the tax rates and what, a little more specifically about the townships and the numbers that you...
Yeah, the homestead, non-homestead throws people. Like, why? Nobody else does it. Why don't you just have one, the lower one preferably. But it is confusing, and there's a reason for it, I'm sure, but...
Not to get too far into the weeds, but I believe that having the homestead, non-homestead helps the homestead because the non-homestead is taxed at a higher rate.
Yeah.
So I would think if you're a homeowner and not a business owner, a homeowner, it's a good thing because if we didn't have the differentiated rate,
it'd be flat for everybody, yeah.
And it would be distributed at an even higher rate. That's my...
So the homeowner's rate is $24.87 this year, and the non-homestead rate or the business rate is $37.95. Those are the numbers.
Is that what that was for 18?
Those are Unionville's numbers this year.
Question,
37.
Apartment buildings, let's say that, are they taxed as a non-homestead or as a homestead?
It's up to the assessor to determine whether it's a commercial building or not. My guess is that some are and some aren't. I don't know about if it's a personal family home and it's a duplex, it might be a residential and not a commercial. But if it's an 8-apartment building, it might be commercial.
But that's up to the local assessor. That's
all of those determinations and all of the assessed values are based on what the assessor. The only thing that the school district has as an input is the amount of money that it needs to support the budget. All of the other processes are dictated by real property tax law or by the assessors.
Right. Wonderful. Anybody else have any other questions? No? Well, yes.
Homeschool kids in your own district, are they under your umbrella at all for social and sports?
So currently, our district policy is that if students are homeschooled, they are not eligible to participate in other after-school activities. So whether it be sports or clubs or things like that. So that's the current district policy. Yes, ma'am.
Do you currently send to the various towns within the Arlington district the awards that are won by the Arlington district? Having been a high school teacher, I'm familiar with the extraordinary quality of education that you supply. I can also understand that if you even have kids or grandkids, you might not be aware of that. Possibly if you could, just on a regular basis, send to every one of the towns, and then the towns have someone in charge of promulgating that to everybody.
Right.
I think that might help a lot.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Just getting the good word out. Absolutely.
If you sent it to us, we'd post it for you, we would distribute it to you for the people that don't have kids. It's a great idea, too, because we had at our, was it Community Day? Yeah, we had the color guard.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, they're fantastic. They're really, I mean, they were
Well,
just
they do
great.
send a newsletter out frequently from the Arlington School District.
Yeah, you get a
There's a lot of good
newsletter.
information in there.
Arlingtonian, I think it's called, right?
Well, Arlingtonian is on our website, that's the school newspaper,
Right.
that the kids read at the high school. The communicator we send out, it's only 2 or 3 times a year, so in between, it's easy, and frankly, sometimes that gets thrown in the junk pile, and people don't read it, we
Yeah.
do that a lot, because it comes in the bulk mail, but I think regardless of those two.
The awards would be good to know.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense to just, the more we can get the word out, the better.
Yeah,
So,
and you're not bragging, we want to hear about it.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Yes?
Are there any plans to close another school and/or close down some of the dated modulars?
So currently, no. No change there in terms of closing down complete schools. We're going to have to wait and see how our enrollment, we think it's kind of stabilizing now. If you noticed up on the chart, the kindergarten classes are starting to be more consistent. I mean, you're going from, you go back 10 years ago, we had, 700 to 800 kids coming in. They're pretty much settling into that low 5s, and we've had it pretty consistently the last couple of years. So we think that's our new normal. So I don't anticipate actually closing any additional physical buildings unless something drastically was to change where we hit another cliff. In terms of the modulars, I think that's got to be part of the long-term plan, and it kind of goes back to that takes money, right? So just as an example, it doesn't apply to Vale Farm, but Beekman Elementary has a large modular section. So the modulars were put on 27. Yeah, so it doesn't get 20 plus, so almost 30 years ago. Never intended really to be permanent. They've been sort of, what's the word, but permanentized over the years, in terms of adding things and trying to bolster them up. But in the end, they're not original construction. They're not block, they're paneling, they're things like that. And so over the years, they've just sort of served their function and everything's been fine. But 30 years for non-permanent construction is, it starts to show its wear and tear. So that's probably got to be part of a bigger picture. But then how do you do that, right? You probably got to put it out to bond, and that would be a very expensive project. We have probably a third of our elementary schools that have modular units. So
Wow.
Traver, West, Beekman. There's one more, but anyway, about a third.
Are they still using the modulars up in the old school, LaGrange, on Todd Hill? Are you
Yes,
using them as offices?
Yes, actually, that's Mr. Sheldon's office is in the
Metropolis.
back. There are modulars there that go out the back, and that's actually the bulk of our business office are in the modulars, yes.
Wow.
So you're sharing the pain.
Yeah.
Well, but again, it's one of those things, right? How do you send the message of, well, our enrollment's going down, but by the way, we want to add permanent wings on, replace modulars, and then people say, what are you talking about? Your enrollment's going down. So it's what timing and, and that would be that's a big nut. That's a major building project for sure. And meanwhile, we've got other smaller projects, right? We've got roofs. We've got to maintain what we have. And then, so never mind adding on, but Sue is absolutely correct. I mean, it's kind of been a long-standing thing that we just, at some point, we're going to have to grab.
You know it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Bill, did you have a question?
Yeah, as a realtor, I would say that the living in the Arlington School District is much more positive than a negative. There are many more people who buy in the Arlington District because of the quality of education. It's really, I think, fundamental to the value of the home. There is a major problem with people not being able to afford the taxes. That's true, but I think that has to do with the way that we fund education based upon property rather than income. And this goes back 250 years, where the only people who own property were the wealthy people. And that's how it started, and we have not broken away from that. Ever since the middle of the 20th century, we've had affordability to own property available to the middle class, and some people, as they age, they have much reduced income, and they still have the property, and it's not fair to force them off the property. So I think that we need to shift the burden and to realign it to an income-based rather than property ownership, or some ratio of the two. And it's been talked about for the past 10 to 15 years in the state legislature, but very, very, very little progress. So I would like to
I think
see that happen as the only viable solution.
You're spot on, right? The system is broken.
Yep.
It's a flawed system to begin with. Not only the taxation system, but the way state aid is doled out to schools. I mean, it's kind of like our modulars. It's something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed at some point, but nobody, it's not being tackled because it's a really big issue, and there's a lot of competing interests in all that. So that's a great point. Thank you.
I just have a technical question.
Sure.
What is ungraded? Are these homeschool kids, like the 46, 46,
No,
47?
so we have some students that, special needs students,
Oh.
that are in multi-grade classrooms.
Yeah.
So because they are usually very severely disabled,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily in second grade. They're in a multi-grade classroom, and so we account for them a little differently because they're not, you can't pigeonhole them and say they're in second grade. So that's.
Gotcha.
That's what my daughter used to teach.
Yeah.
Also, sorry for my rudeness, I forgot to introduce our board member, who's been here listening to all this.
Oh, hi there.
Chip McLeod, he's on our school board, and so I apologize for not introducing him.
Yeah.
This is good, because he got to hear it too.
Thanks for coming.
Now you can take it back to the board.
That's right.
So do you ever have non-parents vote on a school budget? I've never been to a vote. I've never known when it was happening, and I'm just curious, does any...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots
Can
of
you
people
vote,
come
can
to
you
vote
vote
no.
absentee for the school
Guess
budget?
who's getting an email on that?
If you're a parent, you get calls, you get emails, you get everything.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But lots of other people get
Oh, yeah, it should come in.
notifications.
Well, you're in. are you
Oh, that's
Dover
what
or
it
you
is.
in-
No, I'm on Clove Road. I'm over at Millbrook.
Your Millbrook schools.
Yeah, that's why. They haven't invited me either. I'm just curious.
That being said, much like all of our elections and such, very low turnout.
Yeah.
And that's been for years, very low turnout. Certainly lower than, like your general elections, but it's really quite sad, the number of people who just do not vote.
Yeah.
It's a very small number of eligible voters.
Maybe that's because they trust what you're doing, and they think you know how to do
It's
it.
interesting that you say that, yeah. I mean, that helps me sleep at night. Like, I guess, no news is good news, but, I mean, obviously, if there's hot button issues on the docket,
Yeah.
or if there's,
Yeah.
if people felt like this is insane, and, how are they, yeah, absolutely, that is gonna bring more people out. So there is a little bit of truth to that. But just generally, it's not an area where people typically get involved and invested in. I mean, our meetings are pretty much like your meetings. Like this is kind of a typical school board meeting. It's not how many people we have here. They have these folks or staffs. But yeah, this is pretty common for school board meetings as well.
Yeah. We really think, yes. One more?
Yeah, the town appropriately so gave veterans a break on taxes. It's appropriate, they should get it.
Yes.
But I'm kind of puzzled about who gives it. The town gives it, but the veterans really were employed as either by the United States federal government or by the state government. Employed by the town
Right.
or the school district.
Right.
So is there a lobbying that's going forward to get that money for the veterans, which I absolutely believe in, to come from the federal government, the employer, and if there is a National Guard, possibly the state?
Yeah, so the school district, as the town did, I think we were a little bit later than you guys, but we also passed the veterans exemption. And one of the major concerns of the school board at the time that it was passed was exactly what you're saying. Because that's what's called a tax shift. So nobody would argue that veterans deserve a break, right? That they should have a break on the taxes. Nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people would not argue that. But the school board's issue, and why they didn't pass it immediately, was, well, it means that if I'm a veteran, you're going to pay more, you're going to pay part of my share so that I get a break. And that was the fundamental philosophical disagreement. They did make quite a bit of effort with our local legislators and communicating with Albany about that issue to no avail. So at this point, it's fairly dead in the water.
How about the federal government? Anybody try on the federal?
Not on the federal level, because this was a state law. This was a state law that the governor.
But I'm talking about the initial employer.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, keep in mind, right, you're also talking about an employer who doesn't always provide adequate health care. So you know, with the
No argument there, but
yeah, so you've got an employer who probably isn't providing the basics and then now has
still
to.
a good question to ask.
Totally agree, totally agree. And it's difficult because, again, nobody would disagree with it, but
Because after World War II, the veterans got the Veterans Administration from the federal government, where it should come from, not the town.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for
Sure,
coming.
and we don't have to wait a year if you ever have questions, or if you'd like me to come back, if you have any more questions, we'd be happy to come out at any point, or
Great.
email, or whatever. Okay.
I think to talk to the taxpayers is really a nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
My pleasure.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All of you.
And again, kudos to you. I'm just gonna unplug.
Oh, no, that's okay. All right. That's terrific. You're more than welcome to stay if you'd like, but we know that. Well, we understand.
In my case, it's often to go get kids that are at the high school.
That are at the school, okay.
Marching in the marching band.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Good to meet you. Bye-bye now. Thanks for being here. Okay. Well, that was wonderful and enlightening.
Yeah.
I will go through quickly the supervisor's report. I have, and I think they're out, there's more out in the door, the agenda, where the agendas are. This month's cash flow report, nothing really exceptional happened this month. We are in that part of the year where towards the end of the year where we have more cash going out than we have cash coming in. So we are watching every penny, as you guys know. We're still a little bit above our budget as far as cash coming in, which is a good story. And everybody's done a terrific job. We're at 88% of our budget as far as expenses, money going out. So people have been careful all year long, and so we're still behind or below our budget is what I meant to say. And I think it's great news for our year-end numbers. Good night. Thank you. So we're fine in the cash flow area, but always ever cautious because you never know what's going to hit at the end of the year. All right. Now, I was going to mention the budget overview. So we have a preliminary budget. We discussed a tentative budget. We have a preliminary budget. I want to make sure the people at home know that we will have our work session. We're going to have, as you guys remember from our budget review, we're going to have a work session a public hearing, before our work session on November 1st, just to entertain questions and to talk through. The preliminary budget I'm going to give you all tonight is the one we were going to put on the website. And these are for you, your copies. Not to go over tonight, of course, but I think I already have mine. Here's 4. But these will be the ones that we will be discussing. And this will be the version that we put on our website, and so folks can come in and ask questions during the work session. So that will start at 7 p.m. sorry.
2 weeks from tonight, right?
2 weeks from tonight, November 1st. And so that's a public hearing that Andrea is duly noting and putting in the legal notices for. And in addition to that, we will be talking, the board, here's another document for us. So we got a lot of documents, we got a lot of work, you guys, as you well know. Oh, here's the other one. There may be is there only one? There's another. I must have one in my room, I don't know, I hope I have another one. There's an extra, oh, there it is, thank you. So we will be going over our capital expenditures and the infrastructure list that all the department has put together, that the green bar on there, Steve, is something that's already covered. And the rest of them are things we're going to talk about. So this is more reading to do, and we'll have a real heart-to-heart that night. So the preliminary, the budget hearing, the two public hearings, one on an hour before, no, 30 minutes. I think we put it at 7 because the work session normally starts at 7:30 to give people a chance to ask questions and to talk. And then on November 15th, the night of our regular meetings, that is the night we will have the full budget review for everybody and a public hearing for an hour before. That's at 6:30, right. So it'll be 6:30 to 7:30 at our agenda meeting, November 15th is the public hearing. Then we'll give a full budget review and have a regular meeting, and then that's also the night we vote on the budget. Okay, so there's a lot of information in there. As far as I'll highlight, and I'll put some bullet points in writing and send them out in email, there's a few things in the budget. For example, we put in, or I put in, as the budget officer, put in a 3% raise for everybody across the board. There were a few exceptional, we had some longevity merit increase types for people that had done an outstanding job and had been left behind before, like George Kolb and some others that were covered have gotten a greater than that. Joan Miller was one who was our pitch hitter this year and did every single job we needed her to do as she moved around from department to department to keep things going when people left or whatever. So those were slightly higher than 3%, but we've got an inflation rate that you guys know is over 2%, 2.25%. And some of these folks, this is a year to do it because we've been saving some money and we're going to be under our expense budget, and so that's in there for us to talk about, as well as some of these good job. Everybody did a good job this year. It's not over yet, but I'm really happy with the team effort as far as everybody trying to save money. I was just really impressed that everybody pinched in so much. It was great. So we can look at the numbers and go through that. The other thing is that workers' compensation, as you guys know, has been my bane of my existence for time suck, I should call it, since August 21st when they walked in and told us our rate was going to go up from $15,000 to $74,000. So we have been going back and forth with them because a 375% increase in anything is too much. And the good news is yesterday or 2 days ago, I got an email with a new rate. Every participant in the county workers' comp plan were reevaluated, and the rate came down from 74 to 49 for the town of Unionville.
Oh, great.
So we're going to save some money there. But we have, all of us together are going to have to really have a heart-to-heart about the plan and about the liabilities in the plan and the way it's managed and the future problems that we're going to face. So they could do the same thing to us again next year and the year after that and the year after that. So anyway, it's an issue, but this year it came down. So we saved a little money, which is good news. We have ongoing conversations going with our cell tower project. They've conducted their title search and they want us to do a few things to make sure that the deal is most attractive for them as far as being in a park. And our attorney, Jeff Battistoni, is going to talk to their attorney to, kind of field what issues there may be. But that's ongoing, which is good. The solar developers, we have good news. Today was the day that the RFP deadline was. We all worked hard on this RFP that we submitted to a bunch of solar developers. And then we went on, Dave and John and I at different times went on, we had site visits at our landfill and our vacant land. Since it's right across the street, with 6 different companies. And today we're pleased to tell you we got 4 responses. So we have to, they're this thick, and we have to analyze them. The board's all getting a copy tonight, and we'll review them. And discuss what we think is the most viable, and then we'll have our attorney look at it, and we'll talk to a few other experts and get some input from a lot of the people we've met along the way. So anyway, that is something that we need to analyze, and if we don't like those responses, we can close them down. It's all confidential right now, but we can close them down and start over, or we take one. You know, we'll just see how it goes. But anyway, it'll be a great project for us to read about and compare notes on. So we'll talk about that too later. Furnace Pond Dam and the DEC. We have these big projects that have been hanging out there for a long time, and I have a book on, now I've got a notebook for special projects, and it's solar, and it's the cell tower and the dam, and a couple of other things, including our farm manager's empty house over there. But just to tell you all what happened, Jake and I went to, I mentioned this to Steve already, who couldn't be with us because he had that emergency dental meeting during the work session. But, so Steve and I got caught up on the phone, and Jake and I went up to Albany. We had a DEC engineer call us and say, they've been sending us letters, and he and I have been chatting on the phone. The town of Unionvale, as you guys may know, hired a company, an engineering firm, many years ago to respond and do things and do analysis and send things into the dam. And we have spent some money with this engineering firm, but nothing has ever happened. So we went to Albany on last Thursday, and we're there for a 4-hour meeting. And this engineering firm, who are dam specialists or structural engineers, sat across the table with us and this engineer. And the engineer, I thought, was terrific, from the DEC. And this gentleman basically said, look, you guys have been dithering around for 20 years. Nothing has happened. You need to make some decisions. We were lowered in our class from an A down to a B, which encompasses so much more regulatory requirements that are so much more expensive for us to meet, that he felt like it was out of our reach, and as a result, we should really focus some effort on trying to get back to the Class A, you know, the better class, which makes it difficult because there's a couple of houses that Beekman allowed to build out, their planning board allowed people to build out that are in the flood zone.
I thought it was only one.
Well, one has a basement.
Right, a basement entrance right by the street.
Yeah. Now, this gentleman was so flexible. I thought he was terrific because he said, look, go back and take a look, talk to people. I've got George pulling some information for us. He said, go back and take a look, and he gave us some assignments. And I will be honest with you, though, I did not get the feeling that the engineering firm was our best friend in this meeting. Basically made it seem like they perhaps might not sign off on something unless they did a door-to-door survey on every single house between here and 55, and you know, stuff like that, which is very expensive. And the man was trying to tell them that Dutchess County has done a great job with their parcel access, their mapping, and you should probably just use that and look at their elevations. It's really, and they didn't want. There were a few things that I won't mention any names. I just felt like they were digging their heels in, and the man told me 3 times that he was going to be flexible, and they disagreed with him on about 3 different issues. And Jake and I were kicking, in fact, if they had been near us, we'd be kicking them under the table, saying, this is the regulatory agency, just nod and do what he wants us to do. But basically, here's the bottom line. Wants to be flexible, wants us to get what we want, he thinks it's a sturdy dam. Our engineer disagreed with him. Not good. But anyway, he said, basically, he wants to work with us.
Hired him. I wasn't on the board.
I know. We hired them to mitigate any problems with DEC, basically.
Right.
That was the reason they were hired.
It sounds more like he's creating.
He's taking the part of the DEC took years ago and creating obstacles.
The man that the DEC complimented us on the dam 3 times. He said it's a masonry dam. The way it was built is interesting. It's not a big slab of concrete that's going to fall over. He said it's a really interesting dam. I understand why the residents love to look at it. He goes, I found it really. He comes down every so often, takes pictures, and he emails them to me. So the man, they said, we did a structural analysis of that dam, and it needs a lot of work. And he said, I don't think the dam's going to fail. And they said, but did you read our structural analysis? So our team was arguing with them. So anyway, not very hopeful. But as we were leaving, the man pulled me aside and he said, look, I'm going to be here for 8 months. I'm retiring in 8 months. I want to work with you, and I want Unionvale to get their problem solved. So whatever you need to do, I'll work with you.
Great.
So Jake and I walked out going, this is great. This is really good. So I thought maybe we should not dither around anymore. Get a few people together. Like I did call Brian Skorlik the other day, who's got some experience with this. You might know of some other people who worked really hard on it over the years. I think we should get a meeting together quickly, review the list that he gave us to review,
Okay.
and start looking at, do we go this way or that way? Because one way, we may have to spend a little money, but there's a few things we can do and get back to him, and then he'll try to advise us which way to go without us having to spend money. But ultimately, we will have to have an engineer sign off on,
Of course,
the floodplain and stuff. But after the meeting's over, or this week, if we could think of, 3 or 4 names, get them
Right.
together, let's have a working committee and move quickly.
Okay.
Because he said if we don't take the 8 months and a new guy comes on, we're starting all over again.
Yeah,
And he said, I really,
Can we
so
get a
anyway,
new engineer?
yeah, that sounds like
that would be my
It sounds like the
recommendation.
first starting point.
point, get rid of whatever his name is, or what, AECom.
well, I think what we should do is also analyze what we've spent with them and which way
they've
we're
done.
zigzagging. Do we have to respend it with somebody else? I mean, let's just look at that. Since money has been spent, we don't want to have to redo it. And if any of the things that they've done are going to be required in the future, and we've already spent the money on it, one of the things they were referring to was done in 2007, and they were adamant. And the DEC engineer said, things change a little bit, and maybe we might even look at it a different way. And these guys were saying, I won't sign off on it if blah, 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 blah. So they're a little, I couldn't believe it. And they walked out of there complaining that he was unorthodox.
You say they, or?
The 2 engineers, there were 2.
That we hired?
Yeah, they were hired by us 10 years ago. They've been working with us for years, and they came.
Okay, I wasn't aware there were 2 of them.
Well, the structural expert flew in, it was a guy from JP, I shouldn't say names right now, but he flew in from Boston. He's been working on our case for years. He's a structural, the DEC knows him. They didn't know the other guy. So they have some gravitas at the DEC, but they're not, I think they want us to.
They're not helping us.
They're not.
I mean, the DEC has come out and said that they're willing to work with us, and our engineering firm isn't. I don't see much point in continuing to work with them.
Well, we're not, they're not on our payroll or anything, so that's good news. But we have to have a follow-up conversation with them. I thought I'd wait till Jake got back from vacation. But in the meantime, we've got a couple weeks to get this group together and start talking through the to-do list he gave us, the DEC gave us, and start figuring out our own path. I mean, we really don't need them to help us figure out a path, But we do need some engineer at some point to come in and do some things. So.
Yeah.
It was tough, though. It's just amazing when the DEC is more flexible and warmer, and who loves our dam.
It's almost reverse of everything that we had with the landfill.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're starting to see.
evidently this engineering firm is looking at job security too.
You know what it is? I've noticed, I notice a bitterness amongst professionals that the town has dealt with over a long period of time, where we, at some point, didn't do what they wanted us to do. They apparently did this great design that was very expensive, and the town didn't buy
Yeah,
it.
we didn't have the money for
The
it.
town didn't do it, and they're still bitter about it. And that's what I think. Sometimes you have these long relationships, and they're sitting there going, well, you never have done anything we told you. It's like they're blaming, and I think at that point, you need to get new friends, So it's something for us to talk about, but I'm really hopeful for the first time after hearing all your stories and you guys and people that have worked on this forever, and even Brian Skorlik and Tom Farmer, I talked to him. I mean, a lot of these old timers that have been around, not that Brian's that old, but, they've worked on this for a very long time. It would be nice for us to all put the thing to bed. And
Yeah, good results.
so we'll rush that one. Let's put our names together. Wonderful announcement from our new favorite county employee, Robert Balkine, Commissioner of DPW. He's our favorite. He and Glenn Marchi, I don't know, we've got some tying going there because he takes such good care of the firehouse. But at the last meeting we voted on which design we were going to use, which is the pure intersection. And when Commissioner Balkine designed it for us, he recommended that we put these 2 short, 2.5-foot tall stone walls on either side of Brusgill as we go to Town Hall. And he said it would look great, and you guys were saying you wanted to make the circle more beautiful and warm because of it's going to Clove Valley and it's going to Town Hall. So he designed it with these 2 stone walls, and I was sitting there thinking, how are we going to pay for that? And we were going to. So he came and said that the county's going to pay for it. His budget is going to pay for our 2.5-foot tall stone walls just to help us out. So I thought that was really nice of him. So
Yeah.
we will get that in addition.
Great.
That was at the same time he told me they weren't doing the project this winter, but they'll be doing it first next spring. So it'll be right after that, which is kind of nice. So that's very big news for us. That's why he's number one on our hit list, right, Andrea? The handicap parking spaces from the CDBG grant down in Timor, they're starting work tomorrow, and they will be working for 2.5 weeks, and it's a 2.5-week job approximately, so early November will be finished. Tom Harvey and Richie Wisman and Tom St. Ange were over there meeting with them today again, and Richie's going to provide some things, and the piece that we went during the site visit when we were with Tom Harvey, you know, under the stairs?
Yes.
That we don't like because
Drainage
it's,
area.
Tom designed a drainage fix.
excellent.
Tom Harvey. Tom St. Ange is going to help clean up that area. Richie Wisman is bringing over some material that he has so that they can fix the drainage. And then Clove Excavators is going to help us pave that thing over and make it nice. They're going to help us solve that problem, which is really terrific. Everybody's chipping in.
Excellent.
So I'm very excited
Good
because that's
teamwork.
really good teamwork. They were down there. They had 2 meetings today down there.
Great.
So that was great. So I was very happy about that. All right, so that's starting, and that's why we're not having our Halloween celebration. This is preempting it, but it'll be back on next year. Okay, sorry for the long-winded report, but we've had a lot going on. So I'm going to turn it over to board reports. Dave, Mr. McMorris, Councilman McMorris, would you like to go first?
Well, I've been working on the benchmarking, trying to get that up to date because I'd like to find out how much, if anything, we're saving with the LED lights.
Great.
It takes quite a bit. I'm going on the solar tour, October
Oh, yeah.
26th, which they were saying that they got the idea from Betsy and I
I
going
think that was
over-
your idea, Dave. Thank you for giving me credit, but you gave her that idea. It's a nice idea.
So they're having a bus tour going around the 3 solar sites the 26th of the month, and it's all being paid for by the Hudson Valley County. They're even buying lunch.
So Dave's
I'll
going.
be going on that, right. You know, I don't have to eat my own food. But, so we've been working on that, and then the RFPs and the solar sites over at the, and I started going through the RFPs this afternoon for a little
Great.
while.
It's going to be a lot of work, the responses, but...
It is going to be a lot of work.
And we have a lot of connections now, I think, through the homework that we've done so that we can get other feedback on
Yeah.
what we're reading. So I think
It's
that'll
only
help us.
impressive, you got 4 responses.
Yeah, I think it's great. So, but thanks, Dave. Councilwoman Kelly, would you like to? Or,
done
I'm
for
sorry.
now, yes.
Go ahead.
I'm
Just
done.
making sure.
You're done, okay.
So I attended last month, the end of last month, a Office of the Aging Senior Service meeting, which was sort of prompted by my own interest, and Betsy and I had met last spring with Scott Wood, who is the principal of UVMS. I just actually talked to Brendan Lyons for a while before we started about some ideas, what they already have going, and how we can link into that, and how we can add to that and connect the intergenerational between the schools in our community and our seniors. And I've learned from that meeting that a 1-hour meeting leaves you with 8 hours of research to figure out all those things behind the meeting. I didn't know the acronyms involved in senior services because, as Betsy said, I'm the one with kids in school. So it is something I really want to make sure. A resident had called me, and I found out that Meals on Wheels doesn't deliver in Unionville, and Dial-A-Ride, not in Unionville. So here we are so disconnected from those urban settings where people could get things, and I really want to make sure our seniors are getting the services they need. And so this was actually a friend of mine who was making meals for her neighbor, and her kids were bringing them their mail, and her mom was driving them to medical appointments because there wasn't anything else. So this has become sort of my pet project.
Great.
But I'm willing to anyone's attention or ear, if you have time to help, work with different agencies to kind of figure this out, because certainly people that are more senior, I would respect that. I do have the information for the woman who's currently running our seniors program. But to just try and figure out, because that's definitely a learning curve for me, to figure out all of the needs and all of the services, and how we make those things connect, because
So-
we can't.
When you, as you're meeting with all these people, and I have a meeting next week with the new woman who's the president of our senior.
Oh, Jamie.
She's coming over. But if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. I can let you, it's on my calendar, I'll let you know
Okay,
when that
let me
is.
know, yeah.
But could you, when you talk to all these people, and if maybe you could come back with a recommendation for something
Yeah.
that we could do?
Yeah.
That would be really helpful, because we were looking, you know, where the middle school kids might go and help their
Right.
neighbors in the middle of the snowstorm, who don't get emails and wouldn't know to
Right.
come to town hall to get warm.
And
Anything
Brendan
like-
Lyons was sharing with me that I could actually contact even the high school, for people that live over here in Unionville. There are high schoolers that rake and stuff like that. And like National Honor Society credit, different reasons they do these community service, but hey, maybe it's just somebody's kindness, but,
That'd be great.
you know, to try
Let us know.
and like,
Yeah, let's formalize
connect
it.
these things.
That's great, thank you for that. Mr. Frazier? Excuse me.
I found someone that understands our video system better than any of us, and he took a look at it with Andrea and was able to find some problems and corrected them.
Thank you for sending him.
Hopefully, we're on track now. He does have some recommendations for improvements. Said he's willing to come back later in the year. Right now, he's very busy with his own business, but would come back later in the year and discuss those with us.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
Thank
he was
you.
a huge help, really.
Thank you, Steve, that was a big deal that he came over. And it's funny how many really smart people came and look at that and
Right,
didn't know what to do.
right.
Yeah.
It's a matter of finding somebody that works with this stuff and understands
That
it.
exa-
That
yeah.
really knows it.
Yeah.
That's terrific, so thank you.
That's what he does for a living.
Yeah,
And he didn't charge us, which was really kind.
that was wonderful.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't bill us for any of his services.
Oh, really?
He will, and, you know, if the we go.
If we go with the
and
improvements.
such.
Well,
yeah,
tell him
that-
we'll look forward to talking to him, that's
Right,
great.
exactly.
Is it running okay tonight?
Yes, so far, I haven't gotten any text that it's not, so.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
haven't either.
When you got up, I was worried that you did. Okay, thank you. That's great. All right, Mr. Welsh.
Okay, first thing I want to mention is the Veterans Parade at the end of September in Poughkeepsie, which Unionville was a big part of, was really good. We had 6 gentlemen, veterans in the parade: Jim Smith, Wayne Butler, Bill Meyer, Stephen Schmoke, our own Dave McMorris, and it was a Jim Perch?
Richard Corrado.
And,
Richard Corrado, yeah. So, 7. So that was very, very worthwhile, and I was very glad the county put that on. I was glad to see such a good showing for Unionville. I've been just involved with things like the handicap parking project, getting that done, budget and the solar stuff, so Betsy gave a lot of good details. She's been extremely busy getting all this stuff done, so thank you for all your,
I'm hoping all these projects get closed at one time so we can calm down around here.
yeah, I mean, you got a lot going on, you did a lot already, so
Yeah,
that's
that'd be
great.
nice for all of us. But thank you for that. Okay. Now, Mr. Wisman is at a meeting. He did not come tonight. He was here twice today, and he had to go to a meeting tonight, and he said that we had to take care of this form. I'm going to pass this to Steve. I did make copies. I apologize. I think I left them in my office, but he had called on the phone, and then he sent emails, and he's got that truck he mentioned to us during the work session. Oh, you weren't here at the work session, Steve. He told us during the work session that he's got a transmission problem.
Right.
And,
Yeah, he described it to me.
yeah,
Basically what it is, it's one of the bigger trucks, and the transmission is shot. He priced out rebuilt units from 2 different locations. Goose's diesel is $75.99, and Ben Funk is $67.03. The truck is at Goose's diesel, and there would be a towing fee of, I think, about $600 to get it up to Ben Funk.
yeah,
The other thing is Goose's is in Pleasant Valley versus Hudson.
yeah.
If there is a future problem, you know, it's just a matter
It's closer.
to Goose's. And he's recommending that we go with Goose's.
I don't see any reason not to, given the circumstances that the truck is there now and they've already got it disassembled. That was the other end. It had to be reassembled to be shipped
Right,
to
Hudson.
Hudson, yeah.
Yeah, and he told us at the work session, he mentioned it to me before and after that night. He wants to get going because it's the season to use it.
Right, yeah.
And then he's got the procurement, what's the name of that form?
Procurement explanation.
Explanation form, you know,
That's-
the,
yeah. That's what we decided we would include anytime that we have a circumstance like this. It would be attached to the voucher. So when the auditor comes along and sees.
we'll know why the decision was made,
Exactly.
and he's got his reasons. So he wants to get going on it, and I've known about it for a while. I do have copies of those estimates for everybody, but I personally just file them away. But I think we should probably make a motion and vote on it. It's nothing more than a motion. So, Steve, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go with his recommendation for Bruce's diesel.
Okay. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm a little hesitant. I mean, they got it apart, they're the higher bidder, and they got it there in their possession before we find out what the cost is. I'm a little concerned about it. Then there's going to be a heavy towing bill if we try to go with the lower cost.
They always do that.
That's the problem.
Not that company,
No.
all these companies do it. I find that, I had that happen with a car.
We had that with one other truck too, where they had it all apart. Well, you want to bring it somewhere else,
Yeah, so it's
fine.
kinda
We're going to
hard.
charge you to put it back together.
It's
and-
hard to follow the procurement policy.
Right.
The lowest bidder
At
wins.
Junior's, right, I remember that from last year.
I'd really rather have him contact the board in the future and say, hey, I got a problem with the truck. What do you
Yep.
want me to do before we start
Incurring expense.
incurring expense? Exactly. I mean, if it was a thing where I'm sure he had a pretty good idea of what was wrong with the truck to start with.
Well,
He told us last week he already had it up at this place.
Yeah, but I mean,
But we
what
didn't know the
what
price.
I'm saying and what
And
John
I don't know
is
why I
saying.
haven't gotten an email in a week.
Right. What John and
All
I
the
are
town boards
both
should have
saying, I
been
mean, I'm saying go for it because we need the truck, but
We pretty
I
much have to
think
say-
we
Yeah,
don't,
but this- I just
we're
wanted to make-
stuck.
but I think that's the way he
But
feels
here's
too.
the thing, that you don't know what you have until you have it diagnosed, and you have to take it somewhere to have it diagnosed. He took it to the local guy to look at it, see what the problem is. There could have been a chance that it was something minor worn that could have been replaced inexpensively, but the whole transmission ended up being in need of replacement. It's a crapshoot every time a truck breaks.
How-
You don't know what you have. I'm in the same situation at my job,
How long has the truck been there?
I don't
Probably
know.
for a while.
9/10/2018 is this invoice,
Yeah,
is this quote. It's,
well, he didn't,
I mean, it's October 18th. That's like 6
It's a
weeks
month.
ago.
well, yeah, I mean, I don't think he got another quote for a while.
The other one doesn't have a date on it, but, I mean, certainly he could
It
have
was
given
broken. He
us this
took-
one.
Yeah, it was broken, and he took it up there, and then he called around to get some, and he only could get one other. But see, I look at it like this. I look at it a little differently, which is, I'm not an expert. I want him to run his business, and I want him to run it well, and I expect him to run it well. And, he needs a new truck. It's on our list. It's in our debt servicing budget line next year, and it's priced at $85,000. And, this truck he's been trying to replace since 2004. So, I'm like, oh gosh, $85,000. And then he spends hours and hours and hours, and he calls me in a big victory. Guess what? He worked really hard on it. He's going to change the color.
His 2004 truck will buy a transmission.
No, different story. What I'm saying is I trust Richie because, like, for example, he wants to buy a new truck. You've heard about that in that meeting we had last week. And he spends hours working on it, and he comes back and he goes, you won't believe it, I got the truck, the $85,000 truck. I got it for $68,000. So he's got it he spends hours.
But that's for a pickup truck.
I believe it's
No,
a
it's a
dump truck.
pickup. No,
It's a pickup truck.
No, it's
Replace
a
the
utility
2004.
body, it's the utility body pickup truck. The one with all that
Yeah,
extra
replacing
stuff on it.
2004
That-
Silverado, which I
That
didn't know
old
we still had
Chevy
even.
that was Pete DeForest truck.
Right.
Yeah.
He's still using that one. So my point is that when he goes the extra
How much did
mile,
we pay for those pickups for the fire district?
I really don't know. It was before I was on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I know, you can look at the state, you know, they have, you know, a pickup truck for the highway department, you can get a pickup truck for a police department, and it's heavy-duty truck, you know, and
With the utility and all the
you
equipment?
just don't have all the whistles and,
Well, he needs all the stuff for snow plowing and all that stuff that they...
well, yeah, I mean, you know,
It adds up,
you can
though.
get that, you know, on those. I'm sure the police put plows on the front of some of their trucks. But I mean, I'm just saying that
I don't think
I'd like to see paperwork, and I told Richie that in the past.
Well, I
You
have
know,
that, the paperwork, but we're not ready to buy that yet, so that's...
Yeah, that's another discussion.
I'm just using that, we're not buying that now. I use that as a discussion to illustrate that he goes the extra mile to push this stuff, and I think if he says, that thing's been broken for a while, I called around, I could only get one extra quote, now I need it, I'm ready to get going. I mean,
Okay, well,
what are we going to do?
all right, thanks for the explanation. I'm going to vote yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be
Yeah.
snow season soon, I understand. And if we can do something different in the future, for example, maybe you guys would feel comfortable with a maintenance log that you inspected once in a while, or, you know, something that,
Well, he's supposed to be keeping maintenance logs on all of our equipment.
I'm sure he
He
does.
is supposed to have that.
Yeah, but he might, but you
Yeah.
don't look at them. I'm just trying to think of
Right.
things that might make you feel more comfortable. Think of what they are, and
Okay.
let's get them.
All right.
Okay?
I think we do need to pass a policy, and I guess it would be really for Jake too, because he has some vehicles, and for Richie of when something happens, this is the procedure to follow. Because
Yeah.
when I've had these discussions with Richie in this room, that's ridiculous to wait 6 weeks to give it to the town board. I know he said a little something last week. Never did I think last week. I thought it was like a new issue, not like, hey, you've had this, and he could have had paperwork.
I don't think he
then.
could get quotes.
He said he had the other quote last
He
week.
did, last week
So
he had the other quote.
He could have just, emailed them out at that point, a week before the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if he was
Fantastic.
trying to get a third, and he couldn't get a third. That
Well,
was
I
the
mean,
problem.
but that's okay. He could email us what he has, because he knows the meeting is in a week.
Yeah.
And that's what we said. We want a week
Yeah.
for the documents to go on the agenda.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Okay. Duly noted. All in favor, everybody said aye?
Yep.
All right, motion carries. We will do better. All right, who is next? Town clerk.
Sorry, Councilman Walsh kind of stole my report. But I did want to talk about, what a lovely event the Veterans Parade was, and all that attended. I think had a really good time, myself included. So I wanted to thank Mark Coviello's office and the county for,
Yeah.
putting on a really classy event. So that was really fun. The license for hunting, the doe tags, the DMPs, will go on sale again. They reopened the lottery on November 1st, so if you are a hunter and would like to come back, please do. They'll be reopening it on November 1st.
Great, thank you. Okay, public comments on agenda items. Does anybody have anything?
Dan McCabe, Darren Road. This would be one of the departmental reports. The last time we had an official town board meeting, a gentleman came at the end and asked about how much it would cost, or was costing the town, to drain Hoofprint Road. And he did not get a response that evening. I guess, again, it would be Mr. Wisman who had the answer, but it was asked at the open town board, and I was curious about the answer. Thank you.
I can comment on that.
It wasn't Mr. Wisman.
Yeah, it hasn't been finalized yet. They're still under, it's still putting together a plan.
So no monies have been spent yet?
No.
No.
No. Actually, there was one gentleman that emailed me that I have to write back. George and I have met on it, and then George Kolb, the building inspector, and I had a meeting about it, and then we're going to, Richie's already on board with what he's going to do to solve the problem. But George seems to think there's a couple different issues going on there, so I'm going to write one of the gentlemen back. We'll see. Okay, any other comments on agenda items, anybody? No, okay. The Highway Department report was the truck repair that was needed, and also Richie wanted me to tell Superintendent Wisman, I should really say, he wanted me to tell everybody, you know, they've done a lot of work on Quinlan. They're repairing all those pipes. He's slowly, what they're doing is repairing all the old metal pipes that are breaking because of all the roads he wants to asphalt and go over, that they all have to, all the pipes underneath them, a lot of ours are old and are crumbling. So he's spent, the roads that he wanted to asphalt this year, the ones we talked to him about, Still and Manila and all those roads. And then he worked on Quinlan. He's not paving that road. He's got that in his plan for next year, but they spent a lot of time just putting in new pipes along the way, and new gutters and new drains, new drainage pipes going under the road. So that's what they've been spending a lot of their time. And I had some emails from people wondering what they were doing with all these pipes. But basically, he's going to have to end up repairing, and he knows them all on the top of his head, but all of them around the whole town have to be repaired. So they're slowly making their way around. So that's what they've been working on, and then they're going to start asphalting. So paving, the ones that we approved. The park department, Jake is on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. He'll be back soon. He asked me a couple of things. One, we had our silo repair that you all approved, that we approved as a group. I took a picture of this guy over there, but I thought it was very nice. First of all, he came over and he took care of the caps. I don't know if you remember, this is on Google Earth, the two tall silos that we found, on Google Earth, they were open at the top, so water was getting in all these years that nobody knew about. He's got caps that are bird tight, he told me. He put them on, bird tight. He's very pleased with those. And then he went over to the silo, the shorter, cute silo, the tiled silo, rather, that was there, and he tightened up this access door. He replaced the wood along here that was all rotten. You could see it was unpainted rotten. There's some wood over here that's in good shape, but it needs to be painted if we wanted it to look nice, and I think Jake will take care of that. And then he literally got cleaning detergent from Tom St. Ange, and he took his brush and he cleaned all around the tile where the birds had been. Also bird tight, and it all looks good. And then he sent us his invoice, and it was $300 less than he estimated.
Oh, very good.
So we were pleased with him, and he got the job done for us, and everything's in good shape for the winter. So,
Great.
yeah, that's good news for the park. Also, what did Jake want? Oh, the kiddie pool. We have a resolution in regards to that tonight because the invitation to bid was submitted out there and publicly in the Poughkeepsie Journal, I guess, and where Andrea used to visit, and there were no responses. So he's falling back on the 3 original quotes he got.
Okay.
So that's what the resolution is about. We'd like to get started on that. That was all. Recreation Department. We have some advertisements.
Okay, so upcoming, we have paint night. Those have been very successful in the past. We do have several people signed up, but please make sure you sign up on the website. That is coming up on November 2nd at 7 p.m. And planning for the holidays, which are coming up quicker than you can imagine, is the Festival of Lights, and that will be on the 1st of December to welcome in the holidays at 4:30 to 6 around our Christmas tree. We'll have some cocoa and things for that, as well as the event dates have been set, so they should be up on the rec website for next year.
Yeah, all 7 of them. All the biggies are already on the calendar, which is great.
Great.
And also, just so everybody knows, the Recreation Department is going to be reorganized a little bit, and some of the people that were getting promoted. And we put an ad today out for an event planner for our very important town events, somebody that could come and work part-time and just focus on those events, and we'll let you know how progress goes on that. That'll be a part-time position, and we'll see what we get. Old business. We do need to do this in order to finish our employee handbook that we'd like to get done by the end of the year. And one of our open discussions after the part-time off project was we really need to finalize our full-time versus part-time employee hours. What do we define as full-time? Because it triggers benefits, it triggers things. It triggers on what people can take when they leave, all of that. So do you want to review, Mrs. Kelly, where we stand or what the history's been, or
Yeah, so I guess where we stand now is we did agree, like rec and highway, like everything is based off of their 40-hour work week. So if they get a week vacation, it means they get 5 8-hour days to equal that 40 weeks. Everything else is kind of prorated off of that. If somebody works only 20 hours, they don't get that. But we did have the discussion, we had it once before, and we kind of went with 35 hours would be for like benefits considered full-time. But Betsy wanted us to like reconsider, would it be like 32? Because when you really calculate how much, I mean, George is here every day of the week, but town hall is not officially open every day of the week. We do say that Friday we are not open, although I know everyone's been gracious to try and accommodate someone when they come on a Friday if they're here. So kind of matching those hours would take us down to 32.
For town hall only.
Yeah.
So
Right,
town hall
rec and
full-time
highway
could be
would be 40.
32.
Yes.
And the reason I'm mentioning this, and I brought it up to Corinna, who was good, very good to remind me, thank you. Everybody, we have a lot of part-time people, but our CPA, our bookkeeper, it works 9 to 5. And she's here at 9, she works 9 to 5, she's a salaried person, but town hall's closed on Friday, she doesn't come in, so that her schedule equals 32 hours. And, but she'll do extra work, she's like a salary person, she'll do whatever she takes. And I think that, Michelle coming back will be only 40% of her, so she won't be
Right.
full-time for us, we'll be
Right.
paying,
Well, and that goes through the Grange contract.
it gets, no, it goes through, but she's a Unionville employee, but we're only paying 40%.
Right.
So she'll be a full-time person, she'll have benefits,
Right.
but we're paying 40%.
Right.
Which we were going to talk about her also. Then we also have Joan, part-time. She works in the, 20 hours, 28, 29. If she could get to 30, that would be fine, but she's never going to get to 32, or she doesn't want to. And her hours, the way we've got her set up is fine. So there isn't anybody else. Elected officials don't count. You can work 100 hours or you can work 2 hours, to get the job done. So it truly only affects one person. And so then I thought, we want to, she needs to, be considered full-time, and to keep it Marriott to the hours the town hall is open to me made sense.
Definitely.
So 32 for town hall, full-time, and 40 for recreation and highway, which is nothing different.
Right, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes very good sense to me.
And everybody else that works here is part-time. So can we agree to that and put that in writing as the thing, so that when the employee benefits, when the new handbook is finished, it'll say town hall employees only?
You need a motion for that, or?
Let's just
Do we?
put a resolution together for the next meeting.
Well, I think we could, what we'll do, we're just going to
Just
do one
prepare the-
massive one with everything.
Okay, yeah.
We're waiting to do the PTO and all that. We're just going to have it all written out and do it all at one time, but we just want to make sure that we discussed it tonight and that everybody felt comfortable with it. Thank you. Okay. We have Jake in the budget for up to $54,000, and he asked for an extra $1,000 to get him to 55 to start now when he comes back, his pay period, because he's working over 40 hours a week. He's working, and he's now going to be on salary, but he's taking on all this additional responsibility
Yes.
in regards to overseeing these people, even though we're promoting them. And so I wanted to move tonight, have a motion tonight, that we would bump him up to that extra 55, that extra $1,000, and make it effective when he returns for the next pay period.
Well,
I thought we'd make it effective October 1st.
and I'll
Oh,
second that.
that's fine too, whatever works, yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Okay, so you want to make a motion, John?
Well, before we go there, I want to, if I'm understanding this right, he's taking on all this additional responsibility for $1,000?
No, it's like 3,000. It's a total of 3. He and I discussed 54, and then bringing him up to 54, and then he asked if we could bump it up a little bit further with Jessica's departure. So we've talked about it, some of us have talked about it.
Right, so what it sounds like is he's doing all the extra work for $1,000.
Well, he's not currently
But he's-
making 54, that's going to be
No.
his new wage, he's like at
But
52.
that was not a consideration.
He's making 52, so he'd be getting 50, he'd be getting 3.
We're getting 3 more.
You're not following me.
But he's really just a point person. He's not being Jessica. He's not doing any of those planning.
Here's what I'm questioning.
Okay.
We were gonna pay him $54,000 before the Jessica equation came into it. So the Jessica part of the equation, you're telling me is worth $1,000.
He and I have agreed to that. He mentioned it, he brought that number to me, and he felt comfortable with it, and therefore I felt comfortable with it, number one. Number two, we are elevating these people that have been here for a long time, which he's very excited about. He's going to have some oversight, but he's not going to be the recreation director, as Corinna just said. We've got this new model we're working on, and we're going to test it for a year, and then we're going to sit down and decide. And at that point, a year from now, if it looks like we need him to be that person or whatever, then we can make changes again. But he was comfortable with that number, and that's what he came to me with, and I told him I'd bring it to the board.
Yeah, I think we should go on.
Go to October 1.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he's happy, and I think that the other thing, when you make a big change like this, even though we've got, Shelley Knight, we've got these wonderful people that are all anxious to take over their own areas of responsibility, and there's going to be a lot more communication and lots of stuff going on. Jake reserves the right to come to me in December or January and say, it's not for me. I really, they're bothering me too much, or I'm having to communicate too often. He said he wants to reserve the right to not take on that. And so we're testing this for a year, and we're going to see how it works.
Are we giving him any supplemental help in his department then to make up for his time away working in recreation?
Yeah. He said no.
He said no.
He said
In
no,
his
he
review.
didn't need it.
Because what we've got worked out is the team up here is going to be a lot more hands-on down there than the meetings between Andrea, Danielle, and myself. And then we're going to help them. And then we're also in a weekly communication meeting that's going to continue, only they're going to be joining us. Jake is going to have a weekly meeting with them, which they've agreed is going to be 15 minutes. And that's good for him. And he's very organized, and he wants everybody to do what they're supposed to do, and he's going to need to know what they're supposed to do. And it sounds very seamless, and they're all very mature professionals that have been here for a long time. He likes the plan. We've all reserved the right to change the plan if we don't think it's working, but he thinks it's going to be a fine. So I'm kind of deferring to him because he knows what he can do, and he has come to me before when he was hesitant about taking on something. He's very honest, so I'm kind of letting him...
I think he knows what he can handle, too.
Yeah, I'm letting him try it.
Plus the fact that he's a town resident, so he's looking after the budget as well.
Right.
He really is.
Pretty,
he was extremely happy that he got the new title, the municipal park manager title. He's no longer head groundskeeper. I think he feels like we all respect him very much. We put a lot on him, and he's going to be honest with us if he can't do it, because he wants the best to happen here.
Yeah, well, he always seems to get everything done when you ask him, so.
So he's another example of a terrific, we've got a handful of really terrific employees, and he's
We do.
one of them.
We got to recognize it.
So I'm kind of deferring to him, Steve, and that's what he felt comfortable with.
Okay, I know the situation I'm in, and I don't want to put him in that position.
That's a good, no, you're being very loyal to him too, which is great. Which means if he comes to us and talks about an issue, we're going to have open ears. So we'll just tell him to keep us posted. How's that? All right, John, you want to make that motion?
Make a motion that we up the salary to $55,000 effective October 1st.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries. That will begin October 1st. That's great news for Jake Gosnell. Thank you very much. Let's go, time for resolutions. Okay. The one thing that we haven't gotten to, which I didn't put in a resolution, but I gave it to everybody to read during the work session, was the agreement, the coordinated assessment agreement with LaGrange that everybody got, that we're going to be doing for Michelle.
Yes.
So it's similar to the other one, and it was written by the Alan Bell's attorney. We already have one with them. Monday.
Well, this week.
22nd, Monday.
Oh.
She wrote me a nice thank you email, And I think it's a great deal for us because, again, she's going to be working over there on Fridays, our people, so our people will have access to either Robert or Michelle 5 days a week.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is
that's a
great.
big plus.
Yeah. So it's a 40/60, but we're not, again, we're both asking her to keep a log.
Right.
And then we'll revisit the log and decide, was that split the right split, or should it be less?
Right.
But Robert felt comfortable with that, given what he wants to have her do, so, and do for us. So I'd like to get this, I believe, I don't know if it has to be voted on, but I think we should vote on it.
I think you should, yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion that we approve the coordinated assessment agreement, our shared services agreement with the town of LaGrange?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Is it
second.
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Motion carries for the coordinated assessment agreement. That's wonderful, since she's starting the 22nd. Thank you very much.
It's a good thing.
Didn't waste any time.
No.
Looks
Okay.
like getting the truck fixed.
Hey, we're efficient here. Okay, so we procrastinate a little. We got to fix that. We'll fix that. Okay. Let me pull out the resolutions. Now, Resolution 1827, I just want to give you background, because a lot of these are perfunctory things we're doing tonight, several of these. We got an email, the New York State Retirement Office are in touch with us. I get emails from them all the time. You know, every little dot has to be done, T's crossed and I's dotted. And they sent us a note saying that they had conducted an audit without our involvement, and that there were certain names that were missing, and that they wanted us from last year, and they wanted us to please pass a resolution to include the names. So Resolution 1827 is to report standard workday hours for elected appointed officials and town employees to NYSLRS. Steve, do you mind reading this one? We'll go around the table.
Sure. Whereas the town of Unionville is required to report standard workdays for hourly, salaried, and elected and appointed officials to New York State and local retirement system based on the record of activities maintained and submitted by these officials of the clerk of this body, and whereas the town of Unionville has received the hours for the standard workday for elected officials, appointed officials, and town employees in the town of Unionville, and whereas the following specifies the standard workdays for elected, appointed officials, and town employees as received by the town. Do we need to go through the list?
I don't think you need to go through the list, because we will have it posted. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 categories there.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby adopts and approves the standard workday for its elected officials, appointed officials, and town employees as included and made a part hereof. And be it further resolved that a copy of the standard workday hours shall be kept on file in the office of the town clerk.
Okay, may I have a,
I'll second that resolution.
okay, I'll, roll call vote?
I just have a question. On the second chart,
Yes.
it's not like specific, but
Yeah, there's no
those,
names.
but those are specific, so is that
They-
like
they
Betty,
sent those-
equestrian director?
Yes, they sent those to us and said, use the title for these, and these are the standard workday hours that had been, it could have been a long time ago, that they currently have on file, but they
Right.
were never, there was never a resolution to support it. So pass it. So
Okay.
they wanted us, they never got we have to send them this resolution. They've never gotten one to support these.
wow.
So that's what this is for. It's just, they're catching up.
But like town clerk is repeated because Andrea's here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then town
she
clerk
heads
is
the list in
there.
front.
And then payroll clerk, wait.
And she's at the end of the list in the back.
But the hours
Okay,
match.
Yeah, I think it was a matter
Okay.
of being consistent with correcting it to be more accurate.
Yeah, we did that when the comptroller was here.
Yeah, exactly. So these were some of the ones that were not necessarily picked out either as individuals or as positions. You know, we did a lot of them with that resolution you're thinking of, so Danielle
Right.
took that into consideration and looked at that
Okay.
and made sure that everything was, corresponding.
Okay. But this, I mean, this is accurate, like Betty does 6 hours a day
Well,
on
this,
equestrian
you know, and
center?
I brought that up because Betty, at the end of the year, wants to just get paid a stipend. She's
Yeah.
not going to be an employee anymore. But it doesn't matter because she's currently on the payroll as an employee. She was on the payroll as an employee last year, and they sent us this. They want us to pass
The
this.
minimum hours are 6. They don't allow you to go below. So it has to be a range between 6 and 8 as per the New York State Retirement Office. That's
Oh.
why they kind of seem
Okay.
strange.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They said, here's your list.
So 6, 7,
Please.
8 are like the options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all you get.
Okay, all right, the only choices, got it. Thank you for clarifying.
And then when we get new employees, I think basically the drill is that when we get new employees or we start new people, we're going to have to pass it after, you know how they track their time for 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, we usually do, that's why I'm like so surprised.
Well, this
And I
could have
know-
been done years ago.
I know Richie just did one
They said that
this
the
year when the
resolution,
comptroller was here.
they said they did not get a resolution for some reason that had all this information, so they're asking
Okay.
us. Again, it's another requirement, kind of like the sexual
Yeah.
harassment thing that came in at the last minute.
Got it.
So roll call vote.
Supervisor Motz?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Welch?
All right.
Okay, that passes. Thank you very much. Resolution 1828. Councilman Welsh, would you like to read
Okay.
that? Can I just say one thing? I apologize also for this one.
I bet you can't say one thing.
Yeah. How about 2 things? This was last minute too, John. Otherwise, you're going to end up reading the whole policy. Why don't you read the whole policy to us? How about that? That's your punishment.
Resolution 1828, approving the New York State Department of Labor sexual harassment policy for the year 2018. Now, be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Unionville does hereby approve the following document that has been created as a model policy by the New York State Department of Labor in accordance with the new law which was part of the 2018-19 state budget. This new sexual harassment policy will replace that which is in the employee handbook of the Town of Unionville and will be reviewed annually and revised when necessary. Attachment here. You want me to read the whole?
No.
Okay.
All 5 pages, sir.
Much as we love to hear you, do you have a second? Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote.
Okay, Supervisor Motz?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Welch?
Aye.
Okay, resolution 1828 carries. Resolution 1829, Councilwoman Kelly, do you mind reading that? The cybersecurity.
Sorry. Resolution 1829, approving cybersecurity citizens notification policy. Whereas New York Technology Law, Section 208, establishes procedures to be followed to notify affected individuals in the event of a breach of a computer security system and requires municipalities to adopt a notification policy or local law consistent with these procedures. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Unionville does hereby approve the following document entitled Cybersecurity Citizens Notification Policy as the town's official policy, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to take such actions as may be necessary to implement the policy, which will take effect immediately. The foregoing resolution was voted upon by all council members.
Have a second?
Roll call vote.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote.
Supervisor Motz?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Welch?
Aye.
Okay, resolution 1829 carries. Resolution 1830.
Before we go ahead with this, I want to point something out here. We raised the amount that would require the public bid to $35,000 with the updating the procurement policy.
Yeah, this only has 20,000.
So that isn't necessary.
Oh. I thought if it was over 20, we had to get 3 quotes. Yeah, we had to get
Yeah, so
3
that
quotes.
paragraph can be eliminated from the resolution.
Well, the thing is, it's in the past. I mean, he already put the invitation. We submitted a public notice.
I understand that, but it's not a requirement.
Okay, but I mean, he did do it and it's already over and nobody responded anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's not a requirement. We kind of had a feeling, but
We just didn't know what people were going to price it out as, you know.
we were hoping maybe somebody else would come forward because he had 3 and you have the quotes under there? You see the difference in those quotes? It was 39, 32, and 23. 39 is, I mean, it's just a
Wow,
lot.
that's quite a range.
39, 32, and yeah. So Dave, would you like to read Resolution 1830?
Sure. Resolution 1830 regarding necessary repairs for the kiddie pool in Timemore Park. Whereas the municipal park manager of the town of Unionville has investigated and received quotes from 3 pool companies in an effort to determine lowest cost associated with fixing the kiddie pool in Timemore Park. And whereas it has been determined that the cost of fixing the kiddie pool will be in excess of $20,000, so a formal bid process according to the general municipal law, section 103, was advertised, and whereas there were no responses to the advertised invitation to bid by the posted deadline, it has been advised that the lowest quote of $23,000 from Holland Pools be accepted with the funding coming from the park's budget, line 77110.4, for 50% of the project in 2018, an unbudgeted expense with the balance paid for in 2019, which will be a budgeted expense. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville does hereby adopt the recommendation of the municipal park manager and authorizes the expenditure and the commencement of work on the pool to ensure ready for the start of the swim season.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. I have a question, though. You did state that the contractor's doing a portion of the work now and then a portion in the spring?
They wanted to get started now, so it'd be ready in time, because apparently
Okay.
there's so much to
All
do.
right, so that's how we can spread the payments out.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't understanding how that was.
Yeah, they wanted to
I'll
start.
tell you one thing, though, I hope we have an early spring, because the price is based on the job being done by 8/4/1/18.
Well,
It should be 19.
it should be 19.
Oh, yeah, they have to get it done. April Fools.
Yeah, it should, that was a
April
wrong,
Fool's Day.
incorrect. I saw that too, but
But even then, I mean.
they're just
if you
trying to
remember this
motivate us to
past
get it, yeah.
Spring,
You know, if they get it to the point where they can move forward.
They're happy.
Then, yeah.
These are the same people that, you probably know this, Steve, they give us our
They're a good
supplies with
company.
all of our
Yeah.
chemicals, for
Yeah.
years.
yeah, they're very.
And they're giving us a good price.
Reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad
So-
they're giving us such a good price on this.
Okay.
We have a second, so can we have a roll call vote?
Sure, Supervisor Knox?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Welch?
All right.
Okay, Resolution 1830 carries. Great.
Yeah, that's great, because the kids are gonna be thrilled with that next summer.
They need it, yeah.
And their
they-
mothers.
Yeah, it's definitely the most.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in there.
Okay.
Actually, it's gonna help everybody, because that'll eliminate all the little kids being in the
Big
step
pool.
area.
Helps
Big pool,
with
yeah.
swim lessons too,
Yeah.
because they do the first level swim lessons in there,
the kiddie
because they're
pool?
just learning to get
Okay.
their head wet and stuff. They're not actually swimming across the pool, so
Good.
it
And they were really,
spaces everything
Helps
out.
everyone.
yeah. Actually, that was one of the first questions that came up when we met with the folks that are going to be running the summer camps and all that next summer. Is that going to get taken care of?
Well, I like the way you got it spread over 2 budgets. That's
Yeah.
really.
That'll help us a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we move on, what about the new business of the employee health care for
Oh,
2019?
thank you. Did I leave off new business? Yes, we skipped right over it. Okay, thank you, thank you. We also have some mail I thought maybe we'd go through, but given the hour, I think we can, you guys have copies of it at home. Okay, so I have here, if you don't mind passing those around. This is so small it may be difficult to read, but we have met with, conference called with our, did you pass those down, sorry. We have met with the insurance folks, and thank you. The, as I mentioned to you before, the insurance policies have gone up 12.5% for the year, upcoming year. Our sign up, our new enrollment date is 12/1. So we came up with a couple of ideas. One was, we did some comparison with the other towns. There are very few towns that have, well, there aren't that many that have 80/20 anymore. Actually, all the supervisors were writing everybody today saying how many of you have buyouts for your insurance, And still, the bigger towns like Wappingers and LaGrange still have buyouts. You know, they have them.
It's interesting, we don't have a buyout, but it is still in our code book, so we need to change that when we update the code.
Yes, yes, we
In the
do.
code.
Let's put that down. Let's put that down. But but there was a resolution passed.
When I was doing my research,
Oh.
yes, but like we said, the code like trumps that, so we need
That's
to
true.
amend everything.
Yes, we do.
Good point.
That's a good one. Well, I don't even know how they afford the buyout, frankly, but they have buyouts, and a couple of small towns said they had buyouts. I couldn't find one, except I think it was Milan, which is so tiny. There may be another, because I didn't get to read all the emails, and not everybody had responded from the questions of who has deductibles. But when we put together these numbers with our insurance carrier, we put the numbers together so that we kept the 80-20 split, but that the town covered the deductible. Because we're the only town I found that didn't cover the deductible. I mean, Beekman covers the deductible, everybody covers the
Yeah, I know,
deductible.
we used to.
Yeah, we used to, and it is very unusual. Not everybody uses the deductible, or certainly the whole deductible. Not everybody uses the health reimbursement account, because that money stays in an account, and then anything that's not used gets rolled over year. We had, and I don't have my budget open, but from my memory, we had about 150,000 some odd budgeted for health insurance this year. And check both, would you, Corinna? For,
Yeah, I'll find it.
will you? Thank you.
On Medicare, I'm close.
And so the way I was looking at the numbers was, how could we do it if, now we projected we projected by the end of the year to have spent about 140,000 total, because we had like a highway person left, and you have these people coming and going. So we're going to be in under budget, which is good. But with the cost going up 12.5%, that adds an extra, that gets us up to almost $170,000 because of that straight insurance. So what we decided to do was recommend that for $157,998, which is the green bar that you see here, it would show, based on the dispersion that we have now and who buys what, and the fact that we're going to have employee number 9, who we're only going to have to pay 40% of, if that person even takes insurance. That person might not be taking insurance for a year. But that would obviously bring our numbers down even further. But that if we stayed with the MVP Silver 3 from 12/1 through all of 19, that for $157,998, we would have those people covered with an 80-20 split, but that would include 100% of the deductible. Not all of whom used the maximum. I think maybe 3 people did. So I think from our perspective, it's more competitive for us. It's consistent with all the neighbors around us. It's better for the employees, because the deductible is what causes people to take a big hit. We also thought, conversely, if somebody wanted to take the MVP, now I don't know if you can read this stuff, I can hardly read it, but the MVP on the Paychex insurance page, you see up at the top, the deductibles are $2,200 and then $4,200 for the family. There's a bronze plan. If you have somebody who doesn't go to the doctor much, they're going to have higher deductibles, but their premiums are going to be lower. Instead of $724.11 for an employee only, it's $594. So it's lower premiums. So if you have, and for an employee and a spouse, instead of $1,400, it's $1,188. There's some savings there. So we thought that what we would do is, in order to be even a little more flexible, and this was a good idea that this agent came up with last spring when she met with all of our employees, was to try to give them some flexibility. And that would be that to take whatever money we would pay if somebody were using MVP3 and allow them to put that towards the bronze plan, but that would save them a little bit of money every month, because they'd be paying 20% of a lower premium. They may not take us up on it, because people want, it has higher deductibles, and we would max out on our deductible, so they'd have to pay the difference if they ever maxed out, and so nobody might want it. But if somebody doesn't go to the doctor that much and wants to pay lower premiums, they're all lower by a couple $100. So anyway, that was one way we were thinking, that if somebody wanted to save money that didn't go, they might prefer the bronze plan. And so it's bronze 2, and the details are on the sheet. And in other words, we've created a better benefit for the employees. We're still going to have our 80-20 split. We will never, ever go back to buyouts. We can't afford that. But if they wanted to take that bucket of money that they'd be eligible to have, that would be paying for them, and then go to a more economical plan for them, it would lower our costs too, because an 80-20 split, the premiums are going down.
Right.
So we wanted to offer them that option as something smart for people that might want to take advantage of it. So that would be an incentive to, our costs would go down, but the MVP is a safer middle-of-the-road plan, and if we were just going to offer one, that would be the one. But this other one, if, again, for those to save money. So our recommendation is, in the budget, is to offer the MVP Silver 3, to allow them to, I think we should pay this deductible like all the other towns around us do, and keep the 80-20. We knew the plan was going up 12.5%, but our increase is a little less than that because of the 80-20 split. So, and I think it will go a long way, again, to solidifying our base of people that are really, you know, we do have some very good people, and we run really thin. And if we take care of them and we don't have a lot of turnover, it's going to help us considerably, because turnover is costly.
Yeah.
So that's the recommendation of mine and our insurance agent. And part of this was because she interviewed everybody one at a time privately last spring, and this is what she brought back to us, was the biggest negative that they had.
Yeah, very good. I think it's a good plan.
It'll work out fine, and the CDPHP for the seniors went up from $297 to $309 a month. So that was not that big of an increase.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one that we can talk about, you know, later. But this one, she's going to be coming to sign them up, so we have to make a decision about, do we want to go with that? Now, we'll be going with the MVP 3 anyway, because that's what we had before, and we could just roll over. But our decision is, are we going to set it up the way that we're recommending here, so that the employees know what they're going to get?
Do we need to vote on it now?
Well, I would, if, I mean,
Yeah, I'll make the
it's the
motion
kind of thing we
if
could vote on.
that's appropriate, that we go with this MVP Silver 3 as outlined on this information page.
Okay. And then, can you add to it that we provide a fixed cost for the employees if they want to go to the lower price plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fixed cost for employees if they go to the lower price plan.
They can use that bucket of money,
Use
so
that
to speak,
flexibility.
and that will save us a little bit of money. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call vote. Oh, it's not a resolution, but I think a roll call vote would be helpful.
Okay. Supervisor Moss?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Watch?
All right.
So I'll tell Helen Kimmerer, who was the woman here, that she can come and go through the enrollment process, and she'll bring the materials, and everybody will be signed up and we'll be ready to go. We'll have that hurdle passed.
Very good.
Yeah, I think it'll be perceived positively, and
I don't doubt it. Yeah, it's a big step forward from last year.
yeah, and I do think we have a couple of people who might go with the lower price plan, which,
Okay.
you know, will help us.
Save them more money.
Yeah.
Save us money, too.
Yeah, there's nothing, these costs are crazy. All right, thank you, Corinna, for reminding me.
Okay.
Somebody's reading the agenda. Okay. Thanks a lot. All right, at this point, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget and to make those payments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to pay our bills. Thank you. Approved budget adjustments done. Public comment on town issues. Does anybody have anything?
Thank you very much. Bill McKay from Darren Road, and I had really some questions with your discussion of what determines a full-time employee in a town hall, 32 hours, 35, or 40. Are there any other towns that determine 32 hours as a full-time employee? Or even 35? I mean, I thought in general, 40 hours was. This brings us back to another issue too, which has not been discussed, except it was referred to when the supervisor referred to the fact that we only have a 4-day work week. And is that still appropriate for Unionville now? When Uniondale Town Hall went from 5 days to 4 days. The reasoning was because we were in a budget, in a energy crisis, and to save money on electric bills and heat bills. That's why, that was the reason it was given. It was the only reason it was given. Some people afterwards, a year or two afterwards, said, how much money has the town saved? And nobody could give an answer to that question because the electricity had to be on anyway, and the heat had to be on anyway for those people, like in the planning department, who came in and did work on Fridays. So I think there are two related things here. Another complexity is, what do you do when some employees of the town work 40 hours to be full-time and others are 32 or 35? Even if you define it that way in a resolution, doesn't that open up a whole can of worms in the future? There's a precedent set here whereby someone else in another department might say, after 32 hours, I should be paid overtime, or something along those lines. Have you thought this through?
Overtime is regulated by the state.
Yeah, overtime has to be over 40.
It's over 40 hours, 8 hours in a day.
Okay, but if you are saying that, you know, some people, they're full-time if they're 32 hours, and other people have to work 40 hours, it just seems to be questionable to me. Are there other towns that determine that have?
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
And I can answer that definitively.
32 hours is a full-time employee.
Well, when I looked it up, even with the Department of Labor,
Yeah.
like everybody gets to set it themselves. There is no like, yeah, so for 28 hours, there's no standard, like part-time, that's all determined by the employer. I know, like off the top of my head, without looking at my notes, I know Beekman does the 35 and the 40, and union and non-union. There was a whole breakdown, and that's why, you know, when I had my portion of the discussion, that I was very clear in like vacation time is reflective. So if you work a 7-hour day, you don't get to take, like, then you get 7 hours of vacation, not 8 hours of vacation, because it's the day. So it's really just a determination of moving it from 35 to 32.
It's also dependent upon the organization that you have and what works best for the organization. So, and we have, in our municipality, we wouldn't attract people if we couldn't give some of them benefits, and the only way we can afford to give some of them benefits is if they are considered, if they're full-time.
Yeah. What does it mean in terms of the increased cost to the town in terms of those benefits which were now given to someone who was part-time and is now full-time?
Well, I mean, she was hired as in a full-time position.
I don't know
but
what we're talking about either.
Yeah. I mean, we're paying her to do her work. She would still come in and do it on days that we needed her to. The town hall is closed, so it doesn't cost us anymore because we're getting the same load of work out of her as we were before. I mean, nothing's changed. I don't see where anything's changed because we're getting her a full workload from her.
My question only has to do with, you know, the precedent. There may be a time when this town grows and you have, you know, a lot more.
Well, it's been
in the town hall
practice.
and so on.
It's been practice.
It has
It's
been.
just something that we put into.
We just want to be official.
handbook, that's all.
We want it to be in writing.
Practice to have 32 hours is the definition of a full-time employee in the town hall.
I don't think so.
You know why it hasn't come up is because we have so many part-timers here. So it doesn't come up that often. In this particular instance, it came up because we have somebody who wants to work full-time and wants to get paid full-time and wants to keep her standing in her CPA and all that.
Correct, at 32 hours?
No, it's 35. Part-time employee. For purposes of this employee handbook, the term part-time employee will mean an employee who is regularly scheduled to work less than 35 hours a week.
Yeah, but I think that in town hall, people, wasn't in the past town hall, ever since town hall closed on Fridays, your point is a good one. It closed on Fridays. Those full-time people, anybody that was full-time here, didn't go down to part-time because it was closed. I think you're right. I mean, I think that it was just people were full-time. They weren't penalizing people. I think they were going to save on electricity or something. I don't know, but there was something that was said about saving, right?
That was the reason it was given.
Yeah.
We changed it.
But we can't answer that, but we're trying to button everything up.
I think Mary Lou was the only one who was full-time. No one else, other than George, who continued to work it, no one else was full-time.
In the highway department.
Well, but the highway department continues to be at 40, the rec department, she's saying town hall, so I'm just specifically to town
Nobody in
hall
finance or the payroll lady, none of
No.
those people?
No, even Lisette was 16 hours a week, so nobody,
Wow.
yeah, so, you know. So,
I didn't know that.
yep, 4 days, 4 hours a day, 16 hours a week. So,
Wow.
so no one other than Mary Lou was here daily.
So maybe that was
other
the
than George
savings.
Kolb, which didn't change.
Actually, I
So
think when they
there's more
moved it
work
down to
that's
4
being-
hours, when they closed on Fridays, I don't think George was even here then.
Right, I'm thinking it was.
We have a lot of people here on
Friday.
Fridays
Maybe you
now.
need to be open 5 days a week, and
Well, then we're
I
gonna
think you
have
should look at
to
the
raise
costs
the
and benefits,
salaries.
and is there a
Yeah.
benefit to the people to have that?
No, I don't
that
want to,
service?
I don't, given that we just are working on the budget and we've got it nailed down,
Yeah.
just,
I don't wanna
I don't
pay
want to
people more
increase
per
anybody's
hour.
hours because most of the people are on hourly pay and then if we
Right.
open another day, they're going to get a whole nother, it's expensive.
Yeah.
However, we had that Saturday morning for the taxpayers and a lot of them needed town clerk type stuff and they were very happy Saturdays, January through June. So that was another way to offer, because if we open on Friday, we wouldn't reach the commuters that aren't around except the weekend. So that actually worked out really, that was successful, people like that. I'd rather kind of, we don't get much, and when we're here working, a lot of us are here, people drive up, we go to the door and see what they need. I mean, and we get 3 cars while we're here. Even if we're parked out front, we get 3 maybe, and that's it. So it's quiet on Fridays.
So-
But if you discern that there's a need, you let us
If we're
know.
not saving money on energy, maybe it's time to think about 3 hours on Fridays to be officially open. I don't know, but it's worth the discussion. The other thing that I promised to come back on, for the past 10 years, been asking for a revision of the town's sign law, and I think that it's easy to forget it, but perhaps put it somewhere on your list.
We did.
We're working on the sound, the sign law. He's talking about,
He
He's
means
talking about
the
the election
political
signs and political
Oh.
signs.
Which-
Just on temporary signs, not in the business
well,
district.
George Kolb is still picking them up.
Yeah.
Putting them behind the
And
building.
I apologize because he asked me to make the announcement, but signs like that are not supposed to be up till 10 days before the election, so.
Do you want it to make,
It's still
are
too
you
early
recommending we
now,
do it,
but-
make it longer? I think
but-
people like the 10 days.
I
But
just
they're
want
up
the town
now.
board to address it.
But he pulls them, right?
I don't
Well,
know.
they're
I
awful-
just
they're
thought
an
it
awful
was-
There's
lot
that
of signs.
contractor guy who put those black and white signs all over that George pulled them and then he called him and yelled
Yeah.
at him because he nailed them on 2 trees that George couldn't reach. And he said, get your signs down or I'm going to write you a ticket.
Across the recycling center, there's a sign for a roofer that's been there for years.
Yeah,
Oh, really? Well, that
Yeah.
should come down
Many
then.
years. I mean,
55.
Private,
Oh, is it on a tree? It's
Yeah.
too high? Sneaky, yeah.
just bring it up.
All right, well, that's in the works, the signs, but mostly because of the LED side of it and all that. So, but thank you.
But can I clarify your question
Yeah.
from turning a part-time employee into full-time? So like the vacation time and everything, she's accruing by hours. So you mean what is her benefit, insurance-wise?
Not a particular person, I'm talking about just the
Right,
principle of
right.
what does it mean when you go from part-time to full-time?
You get access to,
What the
Insurance.
what the cost is in terms of values, of insurance, of retirement, of health benefits, whatever it may be. Just doesn't matter.
yeah, you get
Right.
you get access to, should you want to take, and mostly it's our health insurance.
Right.
And access to those other plans you contribute to. But it's kind of like Brendan Lyons and his looking at it the other side, it's a really good school district. In our case, we have, we've attracted some stellar people and that wouldn't come otherwise. So we need to offer them a benefit and they're going to work as much as we need them to. And only right now we're closed on Fridays. So, but the work is getting done because they stay until they get it done. So, without that benefit hook, we wouldn't get a
So
CPA,
maybe
for
over
example.
3 hours on Friday.
No, we have 3 hours on
But the
Saturdays.
other thing, you don't. The other point Steve mentioned about the LED lights, when you were discussing the lighting regulations for commercial districts with LED lights and movable lights and all this sort of stuff, I brought up the question of, the broader issue of the town law regarding signs, and you said it was a totally separate issue at that time. So it was not addressed during that discussion, and it was left to be discussed another time, so just
Pointing it out,
perhaps
thank you.
another time.
Okay, thanks very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
No, I got something I
Oh, you
want
got
to
something? Okay.
bring up.
Oh, I've got
A
something for
couple of
you.
things I want to bring up. First of all,
Pass that
I
to
mean,
Dave.
everybody here knows that I've been working with I had worked with the Fusiliers for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a thing yesterday telling me that one of our members, Mark Riley, who started with us as a drummer who could barely play, he has been promoted to Sergeant Major of the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps.
Wow, that's great.
Oh,
So,
It's a real success story.
that's nice.
and I know Sue has helped me out with this in the past, but with the Fusiliers, I've always wanted to do, I wanted to do something for the veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I wanted to walk. Didn't come out this year, but when I was cleaning house, I found this, and I thought maybe we could hang it here in the town hall for our veterans. But this is a flag that was sent to us from Operation Iraqi Freedom. It was to certify that the accompanying flag was flown over our Iraq during combat operations. This flag is presented to the Fusiliers Fife and Drum Corps, an official logbook, and there's an article that goes with it. I just have to find it.
Wow,
from
that's
the,
great.
In the Company of Fifers and Drummers official publication, the Ancient Times, mentioning what the Fusiliers have done in regard to the soldiers in the past. So I thought it was nice that, our community has recognized the veterans and what they've done.
That's
So,
great. Thank you. You're donating this to Town Hall.
Yeah, I thought maybe we could hang
is
it up here in the
wonderful.
town hall, maybe get a case for the flag.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a glass
I was going to
case.
say,
Get
a
a
case would be
class-
great for
protect-
this.
And maybe put a little sign under it saying that it's dedicated to all
Little
our
plaque?
veterans, because, a little plaque or
Yeah.
something that we
That'd
can
be on
say
the
is
case.
dedicated to all our veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because, like John said, we had 7 of us in that parade, but I know there are a lot more, and we had a lot of people from this community that did serve over in Iraq and Iran.
Yeah, that's great.
Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's lovely, Dave. Thank you. Who was the veteran who was here yesterday, that cute gentleman? He's 90 years old. He's the last living World War II vet in Unionville, he said.
Wow.
90 years old. Oh, gosh, what's his name? I'll remember. Anyway, he's very proud he's a veteran. Oh, Elizabeth was here. It was the day you were in class. Yeah. Anyway, he came and was very proud of the fact that he was a veteran, and he knows every veteran in town, it sounded like. So you're right, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there are quite a
This
few
is really
veterans
nice,
here in the
Dave.
town.
Thank you.
And
Ramadi.
just to give you an idea, that came from 19, let's see, the Drum Corps started in
Pass it
1981.
down.
They started in 1983 sending packages to our servicemen,
Yeah.
especially if we found servicemen from Unionville, Millbrook area. Sue helped us out because she was working at Beekman School at the time, and she was helping us get packages together to
That's wonderful.
send over, along with, so we had the help of the school districts, the fire company, the
Yeah.
ladies auxiliary. Even members of the town board have helped us out in the past when we were doing it, but.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you. This
so
is lovely.
It was a community effort.
That's really great. We'll
So-
we'll get the box, we'll get a nice brass plaque, we'll put it together, and we'll show, you help us to decide what to do, and we'll put on a nice display, okay? Beautiful. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
That's really nice. Well, we can't top that, we might as well adjourn.
yeah.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much. That's beautiful.
Good job, a lot of work.
I know what to do. We'll talk before, as you're walking out. Because I know we were supposed to meet before, but I didn't.
Are we going to get together with Lizette on this cemetery situation?
I told her to call Steve Diamond directly
Okay.
and to call Ed Harvey, because they all volunteered to be, thank you, Dave. We'll